What's going on, everybody? This is a quick little intro for this episode. So we didn't really do one. This is the first episode of the Deal Me In podcast. Andrew was over the other day, and we did a nice 2+ hour long episode. So that's all that this is going to be. All the normal stuff. Please like, subscribe, give us a little comment down below. This is going to be one of those longer conversations, so please feel free to turn it on, turn it off, leave it on in the background, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm just going to leave you folks with the rest of the conversation, and then I will see you all on the next episode, which will of course be shorter, more specific, strategy based, and we'll just continue on with the channel. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the episode. All right, welcome. This is our first episode of the Deal Me In podcast. Say what up, Andrew.
Deal me in, man.
We're just kind of doing this impromptu. We don't really have a setup, obviously. I thought we'll go multi-camera. Andrew came over today. We're just hanging out, talking some poker, and this will be the second video on the channel. Welcome, my man.
Hey, man. Great to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Obviously, if you see the setup, we got the OG crew in here. Just the OGs. So it's a pleasure having you on, or having me on as a guest.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. It's dope to. I don't really do stuff with other people like this. Normally I'm just all solo dolo. Sometimes when you stream, you'll have people on with the over the Discord, but IRL in studio. This is a first. But yeah, man, it's cool because I remember when you first came to MGM, we were playing, I was like, all right, this guy, he's got a good vibe. And I don't know a lot of poker people, so I wanted to, extend my network. So this is kind of the first step to that, I don't have anyone that I go to the casino with and all that, so hopefully it's a good first step.
I mean, for me, it was one of my first times there, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's so nice, so generous. I was like, this guy is good, and I immediately knew that you were a good player too, which is really the only thing I care about.
That is up for debate.
That's the only thing I care about. So I was like, okay, he's nice and he's a good player. That's my kind of guy, because I'm all about the gentlemanly part of poker. I think that's really important.
It's good to keep it cordial.
Yeah, you have to. It's good for the game, actually.
Right.
It's good for the game.
Yeah, that's a good talking point we can talk about later. Is keeping not even keeping the peace, but keeping the vibe cool.
Yeah, keeping the vibe cool.
Yeah,
because you can still get rowdy, but keep the vibe cool.
Right.
Yeah, we'll go over that.
Friendly, man. Because so it's easy to get it where people take things personal when they shouldn't, or this or that, or yeah.
Money between friends.
Right.
Story as old as time.
But Andrew is a dealer, so I've never known you from a player perspective. So, what got you into dealing? How did you get this job? Not even this job, but how did you get? Because you came from Florida, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So
tell me about that.
I moved to Florida initially to sell cars. I was a BMW salesman.
Oh, okay.
And I was, I played poker with my friends. I'd never really taken it seriously, but it started getting so dead at the dealership that I would be playing online poker
while you're there
in my office and making more money there.
Wow.
Than actually, working.
When clients would come in, or customers.
This was when COVID was kind of ending, but the war with Russia and Ukraine had just started.
Yep.
And so a lot of the BMW wiring harnesses were made in a Ukrainian factory that got bombed out.
Interesting. So production slowed down.
Production slowed down to a crawl. We had less than 50 cars at the dealership, which is just mind blowing. So
yeah.
I left just because I wasn't making any money, and I said, I've been playing poker online and making money. I'm just gonna go play live now.
Natural transition in 2020.
Totally natural. Never played live seriously before. Online only. Oh yeah, let me just go. How hard could it be?
Right.
That was a wake up call, but also it gave me trial by fire. I really got into the thick of it in Florida dog track poker. That's the most rowdy shit you can get besides Texas.
Yeah, some street poker down there.
Street poker to the max.
Yeah. So
I got, a very quick trial by fire, and I was actually profitable, and I was at that track almost every day, making,
What was your average game, a 1-2, 1-3?
It was one. I started off playing 1-2 for the first few months. And then I graduated to the 1-3, which was actually massive. It was a 1,500 max.
Wow, that's big.
1-3.
That's huge for 1-3.
And the straddle was usually on. So I really went from 1
to 10, or is it 5? What's the straddle there?
It's to 6.
Oh, okay.
It's a 1-3 game, so it's a $6
straddle. I don't know why I didn't think 6, but yeah.
It's Mississippi straddle, and you can straddle the whole ring.
Interesting.
So there were $48 straddles, fucking whatever, regularly on crazy nights. So I went from playing 1-2, 300 max buy-in to
basically a 5-10 game.
Basically an uncapped 1-3, 5-10 game. Yeah. So
how many years did you play that?
I didn't play it for that long. I only played for about 2 months,
Okay.
and then I needed to get an apartment, but I didn't have I couldn't verify my income.
Of course.
So I was like,
yeah, it's tough.
I need to get a job.
Yeah.
And I was at this track every day. I knew all the dealers. I knew all the floors. So I was like, you guys want to give me a job? They're like, sure. So
There you go.
that was my entry into dealing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so how long ago was that from today?
Almost 3 years.
Oh, nice.
Dealing for almost 3 years.
And so you so consistently from that point. And so
Mm-hmm.
how long were you at that first place for?
I was at it was Derby Lane in St.
Mhm.
Petersburg, which
Okay.
is a historic dog track that turned into a poker room / casino when the dogs shut down in 2020. They've had poker there for a long time,
Yep.
but after the dogs got banned, it became exclusively poker
Nice.
and table games, poker table games. They have like a pari-mutuel wagering thing where you can bet on dogs, you can bet on horses, but there's no games of chance like blackjack, roulette, slots that are allowed. It's only like carnival games, 1-card poker, 3-card poker, like War, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, stuff like that. So we could spread all that, but we could not spread any blackjack or
Right.
games of chance because that would infringe on the Seminole tribe, which owned the Hard Rock basically right across the bridge.
Got it.
Like 15 minutes away from us was a massive casino. Like that's how concentrated these poker rooms are in Florida. It's crazy.
Interesting.
A very, very high concentration.
Only because you mentioned it. I've seen it and I have no idea what it is. What is one card poker? How is that played?
Oh, it's just war. It's you get a card, the dealer gets a card,
Okay.
and whoever's card is higher wins.
Interesting. So there's no betting.
You put the bet out before the cards are dealt.
So it's just a one.
It's just
There's no skill then, really.
no. It's a table. It's a table game. It's a carnival game. But
Understood. What does that term mean? I've never really heard that before. Because to me, a carnival game would be fucking ring toss.
a carnival game are the shittiest odds in a casino. The games you can play. So this is
Understood.
Ultimate Texas Hold'em, which I think has an ROI of like 46%. 3-card poker, which is the same thing. You're dealt 3 cards. You make a 3-card hand. The dealer has a 3-card hand.
Oh, okay.
And you have to ante and then put additional money if you want to play your hand.
Interesting.
If you fold, you just lose the ante. That's a massive edge.
Got it.
So that's like 43%. It's terrible, terrible, terrible odds.
Right.
You're much better off just,
Got
going
it.
to the blackjack table.
When they mix in these carnival games and they use the term poker, it always dilutes the ecosystem of what poker really is, which is a game between people where the house is only dealing and it's a best of 5 card hand every single time, which is how I view poker.
Yes. And sadly, poker gets a very bad rap because of
All this other extra
all
nonsense.
of the other connotations
Right.
of, the video poker machines, exactly like you were talking about, the poker carnival games. And to the uninitiated or the, not in the know, if you say just poker, they immediately think gambling.
Of course, yeah.
So,
Whereas, like, when you talk to poker players, they are like, while we do agree it's gambling, it's more like day trader gambling, less like slot machine gambling.
correct. And if you think about risk as a larger topic, a larger theme, it's very akin to the stock market.
Oh, yeah,
Correct?
1,000.
It's just you're betting on yourself.
Right.
So it's a little different.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, how long were you at that room for? The first one, you said Derby Lane?
Yep, Derby Lane. I was there for about a little over a year, and then
Okay,
I
cool.
went and dealt at a smaller room, Tampa Greyhound track.
Okay.
Very cozy little room.
Did you play there a lot too?
I didn't do much playing there when I was working at Derby, but
Spend
I did.
most of your time working?
Yeah,
Right.
there were some good tournament series down there.
Mhm.
A lot of these dog tracks have like a surprisingly good guarantee.
Hmm.
Like there was a 250K mystery bounty, $400 buy-in. My friend pulled a 16K bounty. It's like that's pretty damn good. And
Yeah.
the quality of the players is usually
Is not quite
usually low.
good.
Recently, there have been a lot more pros hunting,
Mhm.
and you can immediately recognize them. But anything that's really under 1K doesn't attract too many super crushers. So the fields will still be quite plentiful.
Right. It's really funny when you said that. You can tell who the pros are. I've spent so much time trying to think, how can I not try to look like I know what I'm doing, and to the point where I've just been like, forget it. I'm just gonna give up just let that be known. Like
Yeah,
because like once you show up with the backpack, it's game over.
of course.
It's game over.
That's why I never show up with a backpack.
I need all my stuff though.
Throughout my poker career, when I really, really need to win, I usually will put on a disguise. And I will usually put on a character.
Mm-hmm.
Most recent example, there was a $200 World Series of Poker main event satellite at Foxwoods, the first of a 2-step satellite.
Yep, I remember you telling me you went to that.
Yep, and I got to my table, and it was all older white men.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing my audience, I said, I'm just going to pretend that I don't speak English.
There you go.
And The very first hand that I had an opportunity to bluff, I did, and then I tabled my hand so everyone can see that I bluffed. And then from then on, and that was the last time I bluffed.
Yep.
And, you know, I tightened up and I got lucky. I picked up aces like 4 times, min raised, and got shoved on. And, you know, stupid situations like that. I ran like God. It had very little to do with the charade, but it helped.
Of course, every little bit.
It helped a lot. My table image was great after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got paid every time I had it. And then they could, oh, he has aces again. And then when I needed to get folds later, when we're deeper in the money, I got the folds I needed. So just very, you know, stupid shit like that. Knowing your audience can actually turn into a very profitable and, you know, plus EV spot. So I think when you sit at the poker table, the most important thing, the first step is you, as best as you can, analyze all the players, have some preconceived notion of them, and then see if your preconceived notion matches their betting style. And if it doesn't, then you have to rewrite that whole guy. You know, you have to paint him a different color just like you do online.
Right.
So, but, you know, until proven otherwise, older white men are tighter.
I was thinking of a couple of them at our room, and I was like, man, there's a lot of people who I've had to rewrite because they come off, you know, they dress one way, they come off one way, but it's like, oh, and you watch them play.
It's like, wow, this guy just called me down with second pair for almost his entire stack when I was bluffing, and I put half his stack in on the river and he called with second pair. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need to rewrite that guy. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But yeah, unless proven otherwise, stick with your gut, you know, like we were talking about earlier.
For sure. Yeah, that's a deep thing.
You have to trust your gut because your gut is plus EV, you know.
I remember hearing, I don't remember where, and a lot of my stuff that I go off of in life is very anecdotal, which is perfect for building a foundation. But I did hear that your gut will know before you can actually put into conscious and, you know, words why you know what you know. Like, it's going to tell you the answer. It's not going to tell you why. So I've taken that very to heart. I don't know if I should have, but every time I find that I have to listen to my gut, it's usually leading me proper direction, you know. When I have to ask it and question it, then I'm speculating.
Yeah, and then everything gets very murky. And my approach is, unless you can help it, try not to avoid getting yourself in like very, very murky waters when you have no idea what's up and down. You're in a deep, dark forest. I play a lot of chess. So it's like when you are in a deep, dark forest in chess, you are helpless. You are like feebly, hopefully grasping out.
What would be a deep dark forest in chess as someone who only knows of the game but has never played it to the point where I could have even I don't even know what the base rating is, but I'm sure I'd be lower than that.
So in chess, there's kind of a series of good opening moves,
mm-hmm.
and if most people know the answers to those opening moves, it's just like poker.
Yeah.
It's you know, this is the best solution to when my opponent does this.
Yeah.
But when people stray from that line, they say, oh, I've never seen this before. I know this is a bad move, but I don't know how to properly counterattack this.
Right.
And that's when they get kind of taken into their opponent's game, when they lose the initiative and they don't know what the best position is from a very early stage, forcing them to burn a lot of their time. Because it's a position they've never seen, they've never studied before. And I believe, if they were stronger players, they would be able to adapt quickly and say, even though I've never seen this position before, I can notice some structural imbalances that this will cause later on, and I'm going to take advantage of that like this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a weaker player will just say, I'm mind blown. I know this is bad, but I can't punish it.
Very fair.
And those kind of situations often happen in poker as well, when someone's like, oh, I know you're bluffing, but in low stakes, they overfold. So I can't call. I have top pair, top kicker, but the board's scary. I can't call. When the guy like 3x pot jammed the river. And you know, maybe they're right. People don't really 3x pot jam with nothing less than the nuts at low stakes. They're under bluffing. But if you're over folding and under bluffing, you are extremely imbalanced.
Right.
You know, so just stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very tough to be able to recognize it and then actually pull the trigger, because you don't really come across those people who are going to put you to that test very often. So that's why poker is such a mental ringer, you know, that you don't know what way you're going to get challenged in. It could be any number. And
especially these people, like you said, these one life Mario people who buy in for the max and then...
Yeah, we were talking earlier, I was just describing a type of person who, because I've never mentioned this on the channel before, but like there's people who, when they buy in, they look at their stack as like, this stack is a thing that like I need to either build into something big or let it die. Like, I can't reload because that would it would somehow affect the integrity of everything, I think, to them, really. And yeah, I called it like a life. Like, you have the different like stocks in Smash Bros, a life in Mario, you're losing your rings in Sonic. It's basically that to them. Like, well, I guess the rings is a bad example because you get multiple rings. Like, anytime it's like they can't see, they don't want to see the game over screen. To them, that's loss. And if they can keep going throughout the level, it's like putting a quarter in a, you know, one of those arcade machines. They just want to keep the game going off their one quarter.
Yep, and that's a sign of an under-bluffing player. It just is. They're not going to be bluffing their one life off.
Right.
They usually do have another rebuy in their pocket.
Oh, for sure,
but they don't want to touch it.
Nope.
They're, you know, at all costs, do not let me touch the rebuy. They're under-bluffing. Always under-bluffing. You know, so...
It's a good tip. I like that.
Oh, of course. And just... These things are intuitive the more you really hyper-focus on people, what they're doing, their patterns, and you can make generalizations, like we said earlier, that are good until proven otherwise if you have some very divergent player.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we have these terms like whales and, you know, nit and fish for a reason. It's to classify people, and that's a very, very basic classification. There are, you know, multiple subgroups inside that.
Right.
But the better you can classify a person, and, you know, I kind of use names like, I know this guy who plays this way. Oh, this guy's playing like Ron. This is a Ron.
Yeah.
You know, he has this very weird thing where he's like, will like overplay his his suited double gappers. He will just overplay the fuck out of like suited single and double gappers. This part of his range. And he'll overcall with it on the button. He'll overcall a 3-bet with it. You know, he'll 3-bet with it. So he's a Ron. Okay, I know how to fight this type of player. And yeah, like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. My last satellite bullet at Foxwoods didn't go so well. Guy limped 4-7 suited. I raised 5x. He called, and he flopped in a gutter, and I bet small on the flop like I'm supposed to, because I have a set. I flopped a set.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I have a set. I'm supposed to bet small, keep him in. He called. The turn was like an 8. It was like king 8, 5, 6. And he had 7-4. And I bet the turn to a 80% pot. He raised me, and I was like, hallelujah, he has king 8. I shoved, because king, and he called. I was like, 7-4? Yeah, it was a bit of a punt, but what? Like, that's in his calling range? Okay, he's a Ron. You know, now I know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when it bites you, you say, okay, that's not your average old white guy, because he was an old white guy.
Right.
That's not your average old white guy.
That's the OMC.
Yeah, that's not an OMC. That is a Ron.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know.
Yeah, cheers to that, man.
Yep.
All right, let's see if we can, we'll switch it up a little bit. So, less, I guess, more about, like, we'll get back to what brought you, like, up here and such. Also, real quick, like, this is going to sound, like, so weird. Like, feel free to, like, when you're talking, you can talk into this, not to me.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, you know, it's natural to talk to a person,
Yeah.
but, like, I'm looking at the recording, it's like, it's just me and you looking at each other, and it's like, if anyone's going to watch it, I don't know how to word it, they won't be included.
Yeah.
But feel free to, you don't have to look at me, you can look at the camera. I'll try to, what do you call it? Not, like, stare at you to make it so, yeah. Here, I'll look more over here, too.
Because I was thinking, whenever people do a podcast, I'm like, where do they point their eyes? It's like, they're usually looking at the other person when they do a podcast. But
Right.
like, huh.
I guess, I don't know if it matters at all.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'll look at the camera. What's up? Hello, America.
All right, so how did you start playing poker? Like, what got you into this game in general?
So my dad always was kind of a very, very safe gambler. He didn't ever go to the casino or anything, but, you know, he'd get these little, like, you know, prizes, or he'd enter a drawing, and he was a lucky guy, so he'd usually win the drawing.
Okay.
He won, like, an Xbox 360 from a drawing or something at work.
Well,
He won some other stuff.
you definitely remember that kind of thing as a kid.
Yeah, so he was a lucky guy, and we played 5-card stud and 7-card stud, maybe, you know, every now and then, just as, you know, family poker night. Cause,
Did he teach you, like, the full game, like, with betting and everything? Like, the full, like, how to actually play poker? So, like, when I would play poker as a kid, you know, it's just drawing cards. You're not actually, there's no chips involved.
We had, I think we used quarters.
Cool.
Or we had some really shitty chips, but
Yep.
he did teach me the importance of the rounds of betting.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you have a round of betting, then you draw a card. Then
Yeah.
there's another round of betting, and then you draw another
Which
card.
is, like, the real crux of poker. You know, without the rounds of betting, there's no
course.
poker. It's just go
Correct.
fish.
Yep. So the rounds of betting thing was something that I knew from an early age.
Mm-hmm.
When I started kind of deviating into, smoking weed and stuff when I was in the, like, junior year of high school, all my friends, you know, we'd go party, and then after we'd go party, we'd come back to one of our friends' houses and play poker.
There you go.
We used to play with dollar bills on the kitchen counter, you know, ante up, nobody
How old
would
are you,
raise
if I may ask?
pre-flop. Or I'm 26.
Oh, okay. So I'm 37. So you got quite a bit, a decade under me. I was just curious, like what the era was like during this time, because for us it was all like the poker boom. Like that's what started for all of us.
This was seeing poker on TV when we went to our local pizza place.
Interesting.
Like seeing the World Series of Poker on the TV.
You never came across that on like
South Shore.
ESPN as a kid or anything?
Not really. No, I didn't really have any media exposure to poker
Wow.
at all. I had to go find it.
Yep.
But besides seeing the WPT or the main event on the television when we went out to go eat pizza, that was really it. Besides YouTube, which I had to go search for.
For sure.
So nothing really came across my plate like that. No.
So you guys were like juniors, like 16, 17, started getting into it. Yeah, that's right around my age too when we started getting into it.
Yep.
Yep.
And from there, I watched a few videos just to kind of get the basic strategy. Started beating my friends. I think this is like every poker player story. Started beating my friends, thought I could take it to the next league.
Yep.
And then, you know, here I am, almost 10 years later. A very good poker player, but still, you know, like, wow, I can't believe it ended up like this.
For sure. Now, what did you guys play to start? Did you play cash games or tournaments?
Oh, it was all cash. All cash games.
Oh, okay.
We do, like, you know, we didn't even know, but it was super, super short stacked. You know, single ante, just see the flop poker.
What do you mean, just see the flop poker, like bomb pot style?
Well, there was pre-flop betting, but no one bet pre-flop.
It was always check.
It was all, everyone limps in.
Okay.
It was just like your normal
But it was like a normal 2-blind structure, like one, so you said 1-2, and then everyone just would call 2.
Yep,
Okay.
everyone would just limp in.
Got it.
And I was the first person to kind of introduce pre-flop racing. And they were all like, what are you doing? They were just like old people now.
Right.
At the limit game. You're raising? What are you doing?
Right.
So that was when I started beating them a lot more because I'd raise and then bluff or get value on
When you say short stacks, you mean like, are these like $40 stacks or
These are
$50
like
stacks?
$40 stacks.
Yeah.
These
I've seen a lot of $1-2 $40 games for sure. Yeah, that's because when you're IRL, people they don't have the. I mean, whenever I hosted, I wouldn't mind hosting a 5-cent, 10-cent game, but people they don't have the. It's not natural to them, you know, because I mean, for me, I come from an online background primarily, so I'm used to these penny games, you know. Whereas, like, if you're used to live, 1-2 is the smallest you could possibly play. Like, what else would you play? They don't make dollars that are less than 1 and 2.
Yep.
So you have to play 1-2.
Which is actually, you know, mid stakes, right?
Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
yes. I mean,
For online, it's mid stakes.
small stakes.
Yeah.
Is 1-2. 1-2 is the I'm very particular about this, but 1-2 in my humble opinion, the largest small stakes game. And small stakes only actually includes 2 games of 1-2 and 50-cent dollar. Those are the only 2 small stakes games in online poker, in my opinion. Anything under NL 100 is considered micro stakes. Anything above NL 200 I consider mid stakes, and then above that would be, of course, high stakes. But yeah. And if even then, calling NL 200 a small stakes game is like so disingenuous because like to be able to beat that online is so unbelievably. I mean, depending on the site. I mean, we're talking club for the duration of this podcast. I don't remember if I've called it on the site or if on this channel Club WPT Gold Club Dub, but that's all we're going to be calling it. It is Club Dub. Club Dub 50-cent dollar 2 is completely different than say coin poker 1-2.
Oh, ridiculous.
You know, it's not even. It really is. You might as well be playing live versus online because the Club Dub is just a complete anomaly of a site that will probably not even be here in 6 months. I mean, it'll still be here, but in terms of like, yeah, like if you go on there right now and, you know, click around and such, like you can still find some people at a 40, 50, 60% VPIP and in, you know, 6 months, I'm sure that's going to go down to nothing.
Because of the damn transaction limits, $6,000 a month. You got to let the fish give more than $6,000 a month.
In terms of deposit?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the smaller 16, it doesn't really impact stuff that much. But yeah, for
people, I mean, it's just like that guy we were talking about at 510. If these people dump every day, they need to have, and they have the bankroll to afford it. They need to be allowed to. So that's one of the things I don't like about Club Dub is the
I guess that's true. Yeah, limit. I never really thought about that because as someone who's only ever trying to withdraw, you know, you don't really care about the deposit limits. So it is, yeah, true. I did not think about that angle. I'm more looking at the wizard. I'm like, oh, you can withdraw like, you know, $80,000 a month or something. Like, sounds good to me. You know, won't even touch that, but, you know, sniff that, I should say. But I can't speak to any of that really because that's not where my experience lies. Like 90% of my play has been at the $1 big blind, which is straddle big blind, whatever you want to call it, the biggest of the blind bets that you have to put out. And then I played a little bit of the 50 cent 1-2, and then a tiny bit of the 1-2-4. So that's about it. I know you. Okay, actually, this is an interesting segue because I know that you've played some of the bigger games, and I'm curious as to why. Is it just because the site's so soft, and you're like, let's just maximize the value, or?
Exactly. Well, before I had even studied the theory of this triple blind structure, I put like 200 in. I ran it up to like 2,000, and I was like, you know what? Let me shot take at 5, 10, 20. There were, I think, some like poker personalities at the table. I think Brown Ball was at the table, and some other like
with 2K. That's not even a shot. That's like that's almost like a gamble like that because you get with no reload. Like, because what are you going for broke at that point or what?
Well,
say sorry to interrupt, but say you start to dwindle down like the one stack person. Like, are you then going to cash out at 1K or what's your plan? What was your plan going into it?
Oh, my plan was either double or nothing.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to run this to 4K.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight for it because I know that there's a lot of dead money. So I'm going to just try to be aggressive and kind of see what happens. And, if I run it down, so be it.
Yeah.
I was okay with losing because I was like, oh, it's a new site. I ran my 200 up 10x. Let me just,
sure,
double it or nothing. So playing that game was very similar to playing like a very like action live high stakes game. It was so similar. People were 3-betting like 30% of hands, bluffing off stacks left and right, and I doubled in like a standard flip pre-flop, ace king versus queens, like just completely standard.
Yep.
I think I 5-bet shoved for fold value. Because
it's better to be the shover than the caller.
So yeah, I 5-bet shove for fold value, got called by queens, won a flip, nothing spectacular there. But just the vibe of the table was like, I was like, this site is insane.
Yeah.
The action is ridiculous.
When was this?
This was very soon after the site came out, less than a month after the site came out.
And when was that actually? Because I'm actually pretty late to the site.
February?
I guess March? I'm not that late to the site. Never mind.
I have no idea when the site came out.
Because there's Club WP. There's WPT Global. That's for the rest of the world, I guess. And then I'm an idiot. I'm like looking on like in the App Store, and there's like a free to play WPT. So I didn't know what the hell even like how do you get to the? I didn't know you had to go on your desktop computer and then go there and then create the account there, and then you can log onto the mobile through the website. Yeah. It's like very backdoorsy through
It's ridiculous that it's a browser in 2025.
It's the fact that it can't. It's somehow legal. Like BetMGM is on the App Store. I can put my money in directly through that. But this was a backdoor thing, so very confusing for me. That's why it took me so long. I think I came in like, was it March at first? But I was only messing around with just the micro stakes just to see what the site was like, because I'm very not trusting of sites to start. But then when I seen some people on it and how much money people were making, like, I guess I better put on 1K and start actually playing some.
I mean, one of my friends actually won the Rampage at a Rolex giveaway.
Okay.
And he said the first person to stack me gets a Rolex.
Yep.
And my friend stacked him.
Yeah.
Jack 4 offsuit, 5 ways all in pre.
No way.
And got sent a $7,500 Rolex in the mail.
There you go.
So I was like, oh, that's pretty legit. When he sent me the pictures of the Rolex, I was like, okay, maybe I'll play on the site. Because I, too, am very distrusting of online.
Yeah. Especially after the whole Black Friday thing.
The Black Friday thing, right when I was getting into poker and taking it seriously, I went through like a massive amount, like 5K of my bankroll at ACR playing tournaments. And yeah, I was a shitty player, but also that was back when botting was pretty relevant.
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened. All of the poker sites were getting flooded with new people and thus bots that took advantage of the new people.
So like, I guess this is something, because I've never had the direct chance to ask someone, but like when I've played on a lot of poker sites, never touched ACR with a 10-foot pole. Why would you be willing to give them your action?
I didn't know any better.
Okay.
I was not keyed into
Understood.
The fact that they're not even a U.S. company,
A lot of them aren't, but still. You can still, like, Ignition isn't.
Yeah.
But still.
Ignition isn't, but Ignition is EU. Winning Poker Network is Asia.
Is Winning what ACR is?
Yeah, Winning Poker Network.
There is skin under Winning Poker Network.
Yep.
Understood.
Yep. So,
You mean America's card room was made in China?
Who would have thought?
Wow.
I think they were based out of some tax-free zone for a long time, but now, if you go download the mobile app, it's, Chinese development. It's not on the App Store. You gotta fucking go into your phone's permissions to allow it. And
Yep.
I know this because I was like, let me just try to play some some Omaha on there. I threw $200 in to see what happened. I was like, yeah, this is decent, but not too exciting or interesting.
Right.
But yeah, to download that app on your phone, it's like you gotta
Jump through some hoops.
and it's sketchy all the way through. Don't put your money. Don't play on ACR.
This is a PSA to all y'all guys. Like, don't play on ACR. Like, you're dumb if you play on ACR. It's just that simple, man. Like,
I don't care what Chris Moneymaker says.
Is he promoting ACR?
He's one of their.
He's one of their guys. Oh, that sucks.
I know.
Because he's the man, but that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to knock some. How do you say it? Knock a dude from the top to nothing off of like one thing like that, but it's like doesn't help. Certainly doesn't help, But Moneymaker did kind of like create the poker boom, so like none of us would be here without him. So you also can't you gotta like put both of those in the same breath, really. Shameful though.
Yeah, you either die here or live long enough to see yourself become an
ACR
pro.
I guess so. It's funny too. Looking back, I remember seeing that like dude only. I mean, we think of him now. Started the poker boom, but like dude only won $2.5 million. Half of that gets taxed.
Yep.
It's like he didn't make the poker, like he didn't profit from the poker boom. Everyone else did. Everyone else did. Like he was it was like he was the guy to discover the first nugget of gold, but that's all he really got was the first nugget, So I don't blame him. It's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I'm sure I'm not saying needs the money, but we hold these people in such a high regard, and poker has so much money behind it, but I think it's very easy for people who especially are at that kind of elite echelon of maybe not poker player, but say poker name. Like, there's no bigger name in poker than Chris Moneymaker.
Yep.
I mean, like, that's in the top of Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth, Ivy, like, Moneymaker. Like, that's just... Sure, those other three are more accomplished players, but, like, what they've done for the game. Like, first ballot, no doubt, Poker Hall of Fame type people. Is he in the Hall of Fame? I'm sure he is, right?
He has to be.
He has to be.
I mean, he has to be. Maybe he hasn't aged into it. I don't know.
It's such a weird thing, though, because, like, what he did really... I mean, I guess he is a main event winner. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but what he did was so much more than that. Like, what that main event did was so much more than that because of the whole satellite thing, because of, like, what online was at the time. It's so funny, too, because, we look back on that, and now, I mean, I look back on that now. Like, you, I guess, had to research it at the time, but, like, that was the whole .com boom era. So he was, like... So, yeah, I only ramble on about that because from then till now, since hearing about that, I've always held Moneymaker in very high esteem. So that was a darn shame to hear.
Yeah, it's... I guess from what I can understand, it is definitely a PR thing for both of them. ACR, even before the whole Nacho Barbero incident, did have him on. I think ACR is trying to clean up its image a lot, so that's where they got someone like Moneymaker. And Moneymaker also has had some interesting stuff. Maybe he went broke, maybe he didn't. He's doing whatever he's doing fine now.
Isn't there a Moneymaker series of tournaments or
There is
like
in Florida. Yep,
I've seen that.
I think it just happened. One of the events just happened.
So like I've seen him. In the funny part too is like I guess this is a bit of speculation. It's like we're not here to speak ill or anything on that like that, but like it would make sense for someone who, since the boom, he played a couple, like maybe showed up on High Stakes Poker once, like did a couple tournaments, like largely those stayed kind of behind the scenes for a long time. Why would you come out of the scenes? Make some money. Why not? Like that's a good reason to.
He got beat up on live High Stakes Poker bad. I mean, I've
was that High Stakes Poker, like HSP High Stakes Poker, or like a high stakes game is what you're saying?
It was a live High Stakes game.
Okay, because I don't remember him actually being on HSP.
It was back in the day, though. It was like very soon after he won the main event. Maybe it wasn't live. I'm sorry. It was taped.
Of course, it was all taped back then. Yeah,
it was a taped show, and he was on it.
Like one of those full tilt Aussie million cash games, like side games.
Yep. And he got smoked, and he was playing a lot better than he had. Even in the main event, he was playing
solid,
good poker, and he just got cooler in one situation, and he got sucked out on in another. And he lost, I think it was like $500K.
That's so tough, man.
Yeah. That's a significant bankroll loss to anyone, especially back then. $500K loss, that's like, what, $2.5 million or more now?
Right.
So that's, that must have affected him in some way. And I think he did take a good break back from the spotlight.
Because it's tough to go grind 2-5 after you're a main event winner, Even though, like, skill-wise, that's probably where he was at the time, Because, I mean, think about it, like, he beat he busted Ivy on a cooler or on a suck out. He beat Farha. Yeah, straight up, he did beat him, bro. He did beat him. Like that's not like it wasn't luck. He had to beat him heads up. He did bluff him out of that bluff flush hand, even though they're both tired. This and that, whatever. It doesn't matter. He beat him straight up, but he was at the end of the day in there off of $40 or some shit. Like I don't remember the exact number. I think it was $40 or $50.
Yep.
So like those. That's if I say 2-5 player. If I was comfortable gambling on a tournament, $40 to $50 is about how much I'd be willing to put on. Like I see $100 tournaments. I'm like, bro, I'm not putting $100 on a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Too high variance.
I mean, he is the poker player's dream. There's no doubt about it. He has lived it.
Yep.
That is every poker player's dream.
Not even that, bro. That's the American dream.
Absolutely. And, yes, he got lucky in some spots, but that's poker. Most of it he did with a good amount of skill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, luck is a part of poker.
Huge part, man.
There's no two ways around it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. Luck is a part of poker. And if you can't deal with that, if you're not okay with that, you're going to start to get scared. You're going to start missing spots, missing value, because you've been burned before.
Yep.
And then before you know it, you'll have worked yourself into a corner, and you'll be a losing player, and you still don't know why. If you're not okay with getting sucked out on it, if you cannot take a beat, you shouldn't be a poker player. When I take 6 beats all the time, that's poker. Yeah, I bitch and moan about it for 5 minutes, and then I go on. I think Trevor Bauer said this in one of his recent YouTube videos, and I look up to him less for baseball, but more as a kind of championship winner, ultimate mentality guy, and how he goes through and deals with being a human. He feels shitty some days. He doesn't get good sleep. He tore this. He stretched that. How do you go through all of it and still keep being the best? And he said, I allow myself 24 hours to be miserable, and then I go back to winning. Because losing makes me miserable. When I lose, I'm miserable. 24 hours to be miserable, then it's time to go back to winning. And for poker players, I think it should be less, because it's one hand.
Right.
It's not like you lost a massive game. It's one hand of poker you got sucked out on. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe a 30-minute walk if you're really like that, because I know some of you out there are.
Yeah, I personally, just to keep myself level-headed, I've had to remove myself, maybe take a forced smoke break if I wouldn't have naturally, just to cause myself to have to reset in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I remember my first time getting sucked out on in a massive pot. I damn near fainted at the table. Like, the blood fucking drained from my face. I got woozy. I was like, no way. Like, I felt sick. You feel sick.
In your stomach, man. Down to the core.
And the only solution to not feeling like that, because it's a emotional feeling. You can't help it. It's a sympathetic feeling. Your body will just do it automatically. The only cure to that is to have it happen over and over and over again until you beat that stimulus response down by repeated exposure. So
I think that for me the easiest way to do that, you can do that in the same game, but then as soon as you step up again, it's almost like you're resetting that whole thing again.
Stepping up, yes. The biggest pot I ever lost in live cash was when I took a massive step up, played a large PLO game, and flopped top set on a dry board with no draws, got it in for my whole stack, and against middle set, and we ran it once, and he hit quads. And if, I tell that story just because it's the biggest pot I've ever played, but also...
Right. What was that? I gotta know.
Oh, it was like at least, I think it was $5,500 pot. Yeah.
Oh my god, I just lost a fucking piece of my soul with that number.
Yeah.
What was it, like a 5-10 game?
It was
10-20?
It was a 2-2 PLO game with a rock.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So, yeah, it was essentially like a 5-5 PLO game.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sucked. But...
Right. But you gotta go through it until you go through it.
You have to go through it. And I think that was like a defining moment of my poker journey. It's like, this can happen.
Yep.
And I talked about it with all my friends, all my other poker players I knew, and they said, you did the right thing. You got it in good. This will happen. The next 94% of the time that you do that, you're going to be profitable.
Yep.
And that's when it really clicked for me. That's when I started thinking less about, my hand, what is my hand, what is my opponent's hand, and started thinking more about ranges and equity. That's when the kind of universe moment happened. It's like,
yeah,
you're right. I did get it in good. I did do the right thing. And even though I lost, I did the right thing. That's the hardest thing for poker players to understand. I did the right thing and I lost. That's variance. That's luck. If you can't deal with that, it's not the game for you. You know, that's the thing that you emotionally have to deal with the most. That will tilt you the most. That will throw you off your game. You have to fight those natural urges to avoid getting burned the same way you were before. Every time I have top set, I'm putting it in. I don't care. I have more equity than anything else. Sure.
I hate to be that way, but sometimes I'll take I forget exactly which philosophical school of thought it is, but stoic or nihilistic or whatever, but like basically just visualize that person hitting quads so that whenever they don't, cool, whatever, and then whenever they do, you were expecting it. You were expecting that 1%, or sorry, 4%, whatever, outcome to actually occur. It's a very negative way to live your life because you're always expecting the worst to happen and then celebrating the best when it doesn't. But for me at least, and if we're going to play tricks on ourselves as humans, it's one of the easier ways to kind of look at and accept when that very improbable thing will occur that will hurt so much.
Yeah, you cannot be afraid. You just gotta keep getting hurt and hurt again. Poker is like a terrible ex-girlfriend. you know exactly how it will hurt you, and you're expecting it, and you're pleasantly surprised, like you said, when it doesn't. Right. And when it hurts you, you're like, that same old sting. I recognize that sting.
I knew it.
So if that's not the type of person you are, I've heard, I got a sick beat and I took 3 months of break, or I took 6 months of break from poker. Just by you saying that, I know so much about you as a poker player immediately. So like Daniel Negreanu said, every little thing you do at a poker table conveys information.
Yep.
Everything you say, even as innocent as that, I took a sick beat and I took 4 months off of poker. Well, now I know you're going to be 99% a very tight player, and I will exploit your overfolding and I will exploit your underbluffing. Thanks for giving me your notation already. Right. I got you pinned. So I think it's important to mix a little truth and lie in being a poker player, and we both do it. We're nice at the poker table. We're respectful, but you do really have no idea what's actually going on.
Of course, yeah.
You have no idea what I'm planning. You have no idea who I really am. I will be nice and cordial with you. We'll all have fun together because that's... You want a game to last. You want to get to know the players. You want all the players to have fun and not feel too shitty losing. Because if you lose to like a really bad villain, sometimes it just turns you off and you take a 3-month break from poker.
Right.
So you want your people to keep coming back that you know well and can exploit well, and you don't want to rock the boat, and you want to be liked because people will be let me just see what you have. Okay. Oh, you got that nice hand. It's much more profitable in some rooms to be cordial. In smaller rooms, it's very important to be cordial. In bigger rooms, fuck those. Fuck everyone. Be a villain. Go nuts. So, yes. This is a little, good piece of advice. Small rooms, know your audience. Know all the players. Big rooms, when you don't know the players or you're traveling, be the villain, man. They don't know you. You just showed up and you're the villain. This is your chance. This is your chance to, I'm going to test out my new 3-betting ranges. Yep, here's your chance. So just knowing your audience and knowing how the maximum, how best to act at your table for the best EV is very, very important. So regulating your table image and understanding most other people's table image is the most important thing. You don't need to know ranges. You don't need to know anything about poker if you can just read people. The people reading this is exclusively at low stakes cash games.
Yeah.
This advice. This does not apply to, the professional world. This is at low stakes cash games. Knowing your people will always be more profitable than any chart or range or graph or piece of advice will ever give you.
For sure. So love it.
That's my philosophy on low stakes cash. Live low stakes cash.
Cool. I guess, it's just a natural one. What do you hope to do from poker long term? Like, do you want to, make mad money? You want to win a tournament? Like, what's your goal?
Long term, I just want to have a steady income yearly. I don't really, dream of becoming hitting $1 million scores in this, but being like a 5-10 reg, I'd like to do.
So you would eventually like to transition from dealing to playing full time?
Absolutely. I used to play full time. I enjoyed it. I was a profitable player. I don't get to play nearly as much as I'd like to anymore.
Because you're dealing.
I'm dealing. I have, expenses now. I'm not a kid anymore with nothing to lose.
Right.
I have bills and shit and student loans that have come due now that Biden never forgave them.
Right.
Not to get political. But
yeah, that's a bait and switch right there.
Yeah, that wasn't very fun. But going forward, I would like to play full time, absolutely. And I have tons of live experience. I've played live since that, like 3-4 years ago in Florida, and I've just logged so many hours in that time. So yeah, you're like, 4 years at live, that's not very much, but I have so this is a good time to talk about going up to 1-3. So making the switch from 1-2 to 1-3. Because a lot of 1-2 players never.
Now, what was the cap? It was like $200 cap?
At 1-2 is 300 cap.
Okay, yep.
So moving from a 300 cap game
like a $1,500 cap is insane.
to a 1,500 cap game. Which is, those are the only two stakes that were offered at the dog track.
Yep.
So my bankroll was very short in compared to the game, and I often bought into the game short. This was fine because most people bought into the game short, just like they do at most live
You're
games.
saying at the 1-3 you'd buy in shorter, so like what would, like 600, 700?
Usually 5 to 800
Sure.
I'd buy into. And most people at the table had between 5 and 15. It was rare that someone had more than like 3,000 at the table. So the bullying wasn't too intense, and also short stacks were respected because there was a lot of nitty old men who min bought and then only played aces.
What was the min buy?
200.
Okay.
So the min buy was 200. There were some.
That's so. I don't know how to word it, but it's like I hate short stacks, bro. Especially because like when you're trying to play deep stack poker, especially like like you're saying, when games get aggressive, a lot of 3-betting and raising and such. So easy just to ruin the whole pot by jamming that little $200 stack in there,
Yep. So this happened so much that bigger stacks gained probably a unhealthy respect for short stacks. They respected them more than they should.
Yep.
So you were able to pull off a lot of antics. However, at night, on a very certain table, there was almost the same group of people who played every single night at this table. The main game.
Yep.
All the characters, all the personalities, the people who really had, tens of thousands of dollars to just waste away on poker. Some of them were good players, some of them were not. They all had money. My first time playing in that game was when I've never been put to the test more than kind of gaining an entry into that game and being accepted as one of the players. That was... It was unbelievable. Like, most every hand I was getting opened into for a massive size, 3-bet to a massive size, check raised, check jammed.
So every hand is a potential
jammed.
for stacks.
Every hand, it was either you're going to double up or I'm going to stack you. So the stacks were always, always, always at risk at that game. That was...
So what would the stacks get up to in a game like that? It must be like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 at least then, right?
Usually it was around, by that time everyone had like 2,500, so they were essentially still very, very, very deep for a 1-3 game.
Of course.
But with all the straddles going on, they actually got pretty short. So it was such a weird dynamic where it's everyone's deep pre-flop, but post-flop there was so much. The raises were so large pre-flop that the SPR just shrunk so quickly. You're like, wait, how did the SPR just go from fucking like 100 to fucking like 10? Like when did that happen? Oh, like there's 4 people just call the $400 turn bet. Like what?
Yeah.
Like that's insane. People overvalued being priced into these massive pots. Like, I have just a naked up and down straight draw, but it went 400 call, and the pot's only 200. There's 200 in the middle. I went 400 call. Like, yeah, I'll call, and that is you're losing a very small amount of EB by doing that. But when you hit, yay!
Right.
So they're competent players, but they will over gamble those types of hands. They will make 10, 15, 20% minus EV decisions on a consistent basis, especially in larger pots when they believe they're being priced in. So that was when I kind of transitioned from being a nitty aces, kings, queen, jack suited, all the premiums, like only premiums consisting of my range, I had to open up a lot because I had to bluff them back too.
Yep.
So my range opened up massively. My 3-betting range opened up. I became not really loose aggressive, not really tight aggressive, kind of somewhere in the middle. And kind of from there consolidated my play, shrunk it down until I'm a pretty taggy player, but I have what some people would call leaks. I call exploits.
So what I was defining earlier as my spews and punts.
Yeah. So I have certain exploits that I take that imbalances that I take that on a consistent basis that yield high results against the kind of low to mid stakes that I'm playing at. In a solver, it'll say, oh, this is a 78% raise, a 12% call, a 12% fold, whatever. So what? Are you just going to click a randomizer on your phone, 1 to 100? Or would you rather have certain things in a hand guide you to making a better decision? For example, very tight reg opens from the cutoff, button folds, you're in the small blind with ace-5 suited. Well, mostly it's either a fold or a 3-bet, so I'm 3-betting this, 30-something% of the time, let's say. So you 3-bet 30% of the time against that specific opponent, and every single time you get 4-bet. It's like, guys, what are we doing here? Why are we just leaving this important junction to chance? Oh, let's just, I see all these poker players do it. There's nothing against them, but, cool, good poker players like Kevin Martin, I see him using randomizers, and they're funny. There's like an old man and a young guy, but it's just, why are we using randomizers when we can use little subtle nuances we've seen throughout the hand and the identities of these players that we've been sitting at the table with to construct a better line? So it's like, yes, I know he's going to 4-bet me every time because he has a super premium, because he's opening from the cutoff, and the button folded because he knew he was a nit, and the button overfolded probably, and we don't want to 3-bet ever. Do we want to try to get lucky because we have implied odds? If we hit the flop, we could stack him if he has kings. If he has a high pair, maybe we can. There's different ways to win the pot down the line. So we could choose to do battle, or we could choose to make a mistake, 3-bet 30% of the time and get 4-bet. Whether as we could just call, go to a flop, and then possibly bluff on later streets, possibly make a value hand on later streets that beats his premium range that he's opening, which is a very small range if he keeps 4-betting us like this. Mm-hmm. So just adjust that way. History is important. History tends to repeat itself. If you know these players and you've seen them do these things, they are going to do it again. Live players at low stakes do not adjust fast or quick enough, even in the short term or the long term. They have a set way of going in that they think everyone thinks they're a winning player. Everyone thinks they're a winning player. Their strategy, their little imbalance. Yes, I know about GTO, but this little thing, this makes me really good at this stake. Yeah. Maybe on certain circumstances, but that's so specific, and you're not really thinking about this as a whole. GTO is a tool this is for low stakes cash games. GTO is a tool to understand your pre-flop ranges, villains' nutted ranges to avoid. Just try to avoid nutted ranges. At narrow and nutted ranges at low stakes, it's very easy to avoid those when they do that, min click 3-bet, min click 4-bet. It's not a bluff ever. It's always a better hand than you have somehow. It's fine. Just fold. It happens. They're not bluffing when they 3 or 4-bet you post-flop. It's fine. So that stuff the solver wouldn't tell you. The solver would be like, well, 33% of the time we're supposed to call them off.
Right.
And, you hear the streamer also in your head, well, this is our SPR, so, 20% of the time we're supposed to call. No. This is a game of math, but not like that. This is a game of informed risk. Mm-hmm. You are making informed risks, just like the stock market. Why not use all information at your disposal to go by every single street and analyze, the optimal play based on where you are in the hand, your position? Yeah, I know it's a lot to think about, but you end up doing it automatically. So go one by one. Your position, okay, your pre-flop range on the button. Yes, you're calling 7-8 suited to a single raise. Like, in cash, I do that a very, very large percentage of the time. Yeah, I'm overcalling 7-8 suited on the button when I should fold 21% of the time or 10% of the time. I'm never folding 7-8 suited on the button to a single raise. I'm never doing it. Because I've all the implied odds in the world, because we're deep, to stack you when the board comes out, an open-ender and a flush draw for me, and you have aces, and I can either bluff you on future streets or get it in flipping, essentially. So the ideal GTO play is something you should know, but in real life, in live and online, what you actually do in practice should not follow GTO, because people aren't machines. People have leaks. People are way too loose. People call way too light. People want to be heroes. People think they're winning players. They'll overfold when there's no bluffs in this spot. They'll fold. They're not machines though, and they make these little mistakes that trip up very, very competent players. It's the same thing as like a very, very good chess player playing someone who's very low rated. And then, just like we were talking about earlier, the deep dark forest. The low rated player makes very bad moves. And the higher rated player says, I've never seen this before. Mm-hmm. How do I fight this? So
I feel that way a lot when I get dunked into.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I've not studied this.
And I was talking this. It's funny you mentioned donking. What do you think? What do you think, and what do you feel when you get donked into online after you've in a single raise pot, and they're in the blinds, for example?
Depends on like what I think about them. So like if I think that they're a thinking player, then I don't know what the hell they're doing. Honestly, like, I think they might be doing it as like maybe they don't want me to check back on a turn that I'm likely to check back for value, or maybe they are just turning. Maybe they got some kind of extra equity and they just want to bluff with it. Whereas there's this one type of player, we were talking earlier, the person who like nurses their stack. I have another kind of player. I call this the bet when they hit. They don't like fuck game flow. Mm-hmm. Like when their hand changes and they hit, they're betting, bro. So if they're a bet when they hit type player and the draw came in, I'm gonna believe them.
Yeah.
But if they're a thinking player and they donk, like it's different. And you don't really get that a lot. That's why it's very weird. But I do think that things like that are becoming a little bit more common in like the 2025 landscape. So that's why I do bring it up, because it is one of those under studied spots, because when you're in the solver, you don't see it a lot, honestly. From my perspective, I do see a lot of, even though game flow doesn't exist as a real thing, it has become aware. We become aware of it because it is really correct to just check, quote unquote, in flow very often, like checking just out of position when you've called a preflop raise just happens to be the best play almost always.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably maybe a little much. Very often I'll say.
Yeah.
Almost always is a big thing.
Correct. You are checking with the majority of your range. You're supposed to check, and that's one of those rules that if you're going to be a winning player, you have to mostly obey that.
Right.
There's no kind of room there. There's no kind of like donking stuff. If you want to be a winning player, you just gotta check there. It
just kind of is what the game is.
It's what the game is.
Right.
So that's.
I feel like if you didn't, then you would have to construct your entire post flop range to be like, all right, I'm either donking or I'm like just check folding. Like your entire range would have to be all donks. Like you couldn't even then play a checking range at all. Correct. Unless it was garbage.
And more often than not, the donks are, I hit from weaker non-thinking players. You're correct. Bet when I hit. The donks are from
It's like they don't care that it looks so obvious that the third card came in. They just can't help themselves. They have to put money in the pot because their hand got there.
Yep. There's no higher form. Oh well. What if I can check raise here? Nope.
Or what is my hand? How am I being perceived right now?
And a lot of those players are the same nurse the stack. Oh my god, I don't want to get sucked out on type players. I gotta bet my hand before something bad happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you just sent me a direct telegram. Oh, hey, you got a good hand? Oh, fold? Okay. Ding.
Yeah.
And then that you wonder why that type of player buys in for 200 or 300 or whatever, and then dwindles down to 115, gets a very good hand, gets called by someone who doesn't believe him, doubles up, and just stays at that exact same stack size all night. It's like... Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't want to do whatever he's doing.
100%. I have noticed, though, since we're talking about this, that it has become more prevalent, and even, I don't know if it's solver-proof, because I don't really study a lot of river spots in the solver, but just because a lot of stuff I study is, 200-plus big blind deep cash game poker, and it's so... To get to the river, at that point, I know my opponents aren't following this step, and this step, so, the answer's going to be very swayed. But one thing I have seen a lot of people doing, better players, is implementing a bet when they hit strategy when the board gets scary and they do hit their hand, because people just do check back. like, check call,
Yes.
board comes in. It's like, let's say for like just an easy example would be if a there is no easy example off the top of my head.
I have a good one.
Sure, yeah, I'll take one if you got it.
I was in a $110 40K online yesterday, and
Club Dub.
Club Dub, and
this is the one the 10 o'clock one. That's after the 50K.
Yeah.
Yep.
The nightly saver, because
exactly,
I busted out of the 50K.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 5-6 suited in the small.
What are stacks?
Stacks are...
Like, how deep? Just give me a
stacks are deep. 60, 70 bigs effective.
Okay.
So pretty deep. It's early on in the tournament. EP open to 2.5 bigs. Standard size at these early times in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5-6 suited on the small blind. I just call, because you're allowed to do that with so many of your hands from the small, especially 5-6 suited. Very good hand.
Mm-hmm.
Big blind, cold.
Is that because you're destroying ace deuce suited, or why?
You stack on wheels, on wheel boards.
Yep.
You're stacking a lot of ace 5, ace 4, ace 3, ace deuce.
Ace 5, I'm going to say. Well, ace 5 and ace deuce, yeah.
So it allows you that extra equity.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know why, but the solver fucking loves 5-6 suited.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's...
Makes sense.
It's just like a little nutted on wheel boards. That's the only thing that I can think of that allows its equity to be that high.
Well, I mean, if you think about the ranges that are opening from EP2, though, like, a lot of stuff is going to be dominating, like, 8-7 and 9-8, like Jack 10
Correct.
and Queen Jack. Whereas, like, if you're playing 5-6, you're not really worried about 6, 7, 9 coming out as often. Or, sorry, 7, 8, 9 often. Well, I guess that's Jack 10, but still. I would just have to assume that when you hit your hand, your opponent's range improves less often with a hand lower in the spectrum when they're raising so many high card hands.
Correct. That has to be it. It's because it's...
And also probably the pocket pairs that they raise with, too. Like, they're probably just straight up raising less, like, 5-5, 6-6 that you can now hit 2 pair with, or
Correct.
whatever.
It's more 8s, 9s that maybe will stack off with you if you flop a straight and they flop
100%.
outside.
Yeah, that's another, good reverse implied odds on their part.
So it's a mix of reverse implied odds, a hidden hand. It's very hard to put someone on 5-6.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard.
Right.
You have to be a very good player to even put someone on 5-6. A low stakes player will never, ever in a million years ever put you on 5-6.
That's fair.
So I've seen egregious things with bottom straight at low stakes. Egregious things with the bottom straight at low stakes, like 4-bet turns with bottom straight.
Right.
For no reason. I have no idea.
Now, even if there's a flush on board, people will take a straight way too far because it's their hand connected and they can't let it go.
It's, me make good hand, me no let go. So anyway, I call, EP opens 2.5, I call big blind, cold 3-bets to a large amount, like 12. EP folds, I call out of position, just praying and hoping.
That seems bad. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
I am aware.
Okay.
I'm aware.
I just had to say that for the podcast's sake.
Of course.
For the audience sake.
Now, you're gonna say that's bad. I will agree. On a mathematical sense, on a GTO sense, it is a mistake. It is bad. Here's the thing. I have more information than he does. I know his 4-bet range is extremely, extremely, extremely narrow.
3-bet?
Or his 3-bet range. I know his large 3-bet range is extremely, extremely narrow.
Yep.
110 buy-ins have a lot of very tight players who are low stakes players who are like, here's a 110 buy-in, let me take a shot. So there's a lot of shot taking low stakes players.
Because it is for the most part like the highest stakes you can play for tournaments.
It is. You can't play really any higher than that.
Like, they don't have 150s or 200s, do they?
No, they don't. So it's like the highest stakes tournament you can.
On Sunday, is it 200 or no? It's still $100, right, for their Sunday 200K? It's still $100, right? I think.
No, it's 110. It's 110.
Okay, so same thing. Yeah.
So what information do I know about my opponent? I know my opponent has paid $110 to enter this tournament. I know my opponent just put in a fifth of his stack. I know that my opponent is probably not putting in a fifth of his stack without a super premium. It's not a bluff. It's not ace 5 suited. It's not ace 10 suited.
Yep.
It's not ace jack suited. It's not ace queen suited. It's ace king suited plus jacks, queens. This is not tens. It could be jacks. Probably not. Not to that sizing. This is a very premium hand. I have a very marginal hand, but I have a hand that interacts with a lot of flops, and I have a lot of removal to good hands that could come later on those flops. And I get the 1% equity from being suited, whatever. So I am definitely against his range on average, like a 70-30 dog or worse. So what can I possibly do to justify paying that much for the information that he has that super premium hand? Because I've just paid for it and I said, With that information, I can now outplay you post flop. I'm very confident I can outplay you.
Sounds like you got a lot of big pairs that just aren't going to fold.
That's correct. A lot of big pairs that will not fold. So the flop comes Jack 5 7, and I check. There are about 25 bigs in the pot. He bets 9 bigs. I am already happy. I interact with the flop. I don't have a backdoor flush draw. I just have one pair, but I have a lot of very good turn cards for me. So I said, okay, I have flopped a pair. I have backdoor equity. I'm still probably a 70-30 dog because I'm putting you, now the fact that you've bet this amount on the flop, very juicy, milky value sizing. A little less than half pot when the pot's that big. Very, very juicy. Hoping I got a jack. Hoping I have queens. Hoping I have tens. So at this point, I'm like, this is a very, very strong hand, probably a overpair. So I'm putting him on an overpair due to his 3-bet to 12 and then 9.99 on the flop. A little less than half pot. So I say, okay, I have enough information that if the turn comes a scary card, I feel confident bluffing. And if the turn comes a good card, I feel confident checking and having him stack off. And then he raises, he bets the turn again, I check jam. So the turn comes an interesting card. It comes a 6, so I make 2 pair. This is why I've paid this much for this information. It brings in a flush draw. It's a scary card. The board is more connected, and there's a flush draw now. The pot is 40, 45, something like that. Mm-hmm. This is why I paid for this information. I got lucky. 30% of the time I lose. But now that I've made my hand, I can stack off with him because I know he's not folding an overpair. So it's very easy to get away from your hand pre-flop or post-flop if you don't interact with it. Say the board came like 10 jack queen. Sure, I'm not going to get trapped. I'm not going to get in murky water. Now that I've made value against what I perceive to be an overpair that's not folding, now I can stack off. And yes, I had to pay, 2/5 of my stack to see this. But if I'm going to pay 2/5 of my stack to have a chance to stack off and know that I'm good, I'm taking that every day. Because it's you have to take chances in a tournament. So I know I'm getting the max every time I make value against this range. So I donk the turn for a small amount. I think I bet 16. So I bet 16 into 48. He shoves, obviously. I call. He has kings. I win. 70% of the time, the story's not going to be so happy. The flop's going to come king, queen, jack, and I'm going to lose 2/5 of my stack. It's worth it. You can always rebuy. You need to build a stack in tournaments. This is tournament poker, not cash. You need to build a stack in tournaments if you want to final table these large MTTs. You need to take risks. Rebuying is fine. There's no harm to rebuying. I don't know why people are like, oh, no, I only fire one bullet. If the field is good, why'd you play that tournament in the first place? Because the guarantee is good and the field's good. Okay, then fire another bullet. You came here for a reason. You put your money in first for a reason. Why not continue? It's personal. It becomes about emotion. Oh, I lost. Fire another bullet, man. All of the variables are still there that you liked, and you think this is plus EV. So fire another bullet. I think people are way too...
What are you doing? You don't improve on that turn? Do you check /fold /decide or?
Okay, so if the turn had come, it depends on what card the turn was. If the turn had come a low card, another low card that like a deuce or a 3 that gave me either a gutter or another gutter, so like a double gutter, or if it came I'd probably check fold even though I maintained equity. If I got an open ender on the turn, I think I would have had to go with it. Just
go with it in the same exact betting line or check jam?
No, the exact same betting line. Lead turn. Because if he's a thinking player, he will probably call turn and then be faced with a terrible river decision if the board runs out worse.
Well, why would he call on a different card but raise on the 6? Seems like he'd probably raise a lot of them. Maybe not an ace, maybe not a jack.
I have no idea. I just know that this guy was not folding. I think he said in his head...
That part I think I can get behind. It just, for me hearing it, the only saving grace to that would be you gotta risk it to build the big stack. It just seems very... you're going to be... That whole king, queen, jack flop is going to happen so much that
correct.
You're going to have to drop that 12 big blinds and just... I hate doing that so... not as in, for you or for anything, like whenever it's one of those ways where we all have our peeves about losing money. Man, when you have to like call, I can't reload in a tournament, but call, lose, reload, call, lose, reload, call, lose, reload. It's like, man, I'll take it and stacked all day over like getting chipped away and then losing a stack like that.
It's true, but and this only applies to large field MTTs. In a 60-person tournament, this is suicidal. This is lighting money on fire. This really only works in at least 500, 600 player, where the final table is going to be 2 times a buy-in stack, and everyone's going to have like 100 or like 80 buy-in stacks.
Yeah.
So if you're getting that deep, you do need to start early.
Well, let me know about what you think about this theory.
Yeah.
You're saying one reason why why wouldn't you just rebuy? For me, a lot of the value comes in and I guess this could just be straight wrong, but I'm being more of a cash game player. When I do play tournaments, I find that my edge is best in the early stages when we are deeper stacked. So when the time comes to rebuy, of course, unless you bust really, really early, normally you're getting down to that like 10, 20, if you're lucky, 20, you rebuy with 20 big blinds. Like that's like a healthy stack. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, when you rebuy, you're basically just rebuying on that short stack. And that's one reason why I, as a very tiny limited cash game or tournament player, would be like, I'll take the early buy-ins, but those later ones seem like more of a gamble to me. It just seems like more of a scratch ticket.
It absolutely is. But there are still opposing views, but the last I heard, there is some kind of weird positive EV advantage from max late regging. You get, if you buy in for a 10 big blind stack and then, you jam a thin value hand just to get the blinds to fold and they fold, you get, 15% more added to your stack easily. So the post-flop decisions are easier. You will make less mistakes. I think that's really where the positive EV comes from, because more people mess up at deeper stacks. So it's hard to go wrong.
Stacks never get that deep in a tournament. They're at the most 200 bigs at the most.
Yeah, and that's really just when it starts.
And that's just when it starts. Like after the first blinds go up, you're at 150, then 100, then once you get under 80 big blinds, you never sniff 80 big blinds deep for the rest of the fucking event.
Of course.
So that's where I feel like, I don't know how to word it, bro. In tournaments, min raising is almost like you should be able to raise to 1.5x in a tournament because the stacks get so shallow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too deep. It's too shallow of a game for me to have an advantage without putting all that study in, where all my effort's gone into the deep stack stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you get from those Florida poker dog tracks up to here? Why New England? I know you said your brother lives in the area, but is that why?
I grew up here. I went to high school here.
Got it. What city did you go to high school in?
Fairfield.
Where's that's in Massachusetts or in Connecticut?
No, it's in Connecticut. Okay. It's right next to the water in Connecticut.
Okay.
It's like, your typical quiet, kind of like a little wealthier than average town. Mm-hmm. We were very middle class. We didn't go on vacation.
Yeah. So how'd you get down to Florida then?
I followed my job. So I worked as a car
BMW
salesman.
dealer.
I dropped out of college. I went to Northeastern, but I dropped out of college when COVID happened, and I just wanted to work because I was tired of not having money. I was like, I just want to work.
Right.
I'm not going to online school. Fuck it.
Right.
And I was a very good student. I was like, honor roll high school, 9 APs, got into the honors college, but shit happened in college. Physics was a lot harder than I thought. I was a physics major, so I failed out of physics, tried to go into another discipline, but my average GPA was already so low that I was like...
More feeling it.
I wasn't feeling it. And then COVID happened too. I was like, this is a sign,
Yeah.
So my whole life I had been kind of preparing for college, so as a young adult, I was like, let me just go find my passion. I love cars. Went into the car industry, knew a lot about cars. Started just, as a cold calling dude for the dealership. Got promoted to salesman, wanted to work at a more higher-end store. I was working at Subaru at the time. I knew that Florida...
That's my neck of the woods.
Yep. Knew that Florida was a great place to buy and sell cars. And there was
Why is that?
The climate there keeps cars in very good condition.
Interesting.
And also there's a lot of people who keep their nice cars down there out in the open for that reason.
Yep.
So, and also car culture in Florida is a big thing. Your average family, cares very much about their car's upkeep and appearance. Car washes are big down there.
It's good to know.
People keep their cars clean. Their cars are their babies. So they keep their cars in very good condition. They get all the updated maintenance no matter how much it costs. They'll bitch and moan, but, for the most part, your average, normal Florida family will keep their car in pretty good condition.
Yeah, it is too wet around here for us to care.
There's a lot of... well, it's just rust. There's no rust down there. That's really the big thing. There's no rust on any of the cars down there. There's a ton of rust on the cars up here.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you grew up here. Like, one of my biggest complaints whenever I go to California and then I come back here is, sure, today is fine, but, at any point in time, people don't find this ridiculous, and I find that fact ridiculous. Everything could be wet. And it's okay, now, they're yeah, of course it rains. It's no. The door handles are wet, everything has water on top of it. This is not normal, people. No. Most places in the world not most, but there's a lot of places in the world that have very dry climates, where when it's dry, it's dry. And that has its own level of issues. But man,
it's bad here. It's because of the humidity. It's because
it's in the air. It's on the ground. It's everywhere.
In Florida, it rains a lot and it's wet and it's a swamp. But it's so hot there, it dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're not careful, you can get molding and dampness, and it happens a lot more down south. But man, being up north with this much humidity is brutal. It just stays cold and wet and damp and ugly.
Yeah, it's weird that being south, I guess, that added heat, it almost it's we live in a pocket of misery, yeah. It's not hot enough for it to get rid of the moisture, but it's cold enough to really feel it.
Exactly. And I feel bad, people's basements still get flooded all the time around here.
Mine used to when I had a basement. Absolutely.
Yep. It's still a very common thing up here.
We have a sump pump to get that stuff out of the water, or get the water, don't let the level get too high. It pumps it right out.
Terrible that's even a thing. But in Florida, they just don't build basements. So
there you
go. There's always trade-offs.
Right. So, what do you see for yourself and for your future? Do you want to be up here long term? Where do you want to settle?
My short-term goal, which I might actually do, is to be a travel dealer and also just play poker wherever I travel to.
Now, is that something you do how do I say, independently, or do you work for a company to be a travel dealer?
It's all contracted stuff, so technically you're independent,
Mm-hmm.
and you get contracted for 2 months at a time, and you gotta, it's
car dealer?
Card dealer.
Okay.
They have dealers that they need.
Are you done with the cars now?
Yeah, I'm done with selling cars. I've been there, done that.
Yep.
It's not the life I want.
How do you get into traveling dealing? Because don't you kind of work for one company at a time?
No, you just get contracted for a series of events and large events, and
Are you an employee at the current place you work at right now?
Yeah.
So you get a W-2.
I'm a full-time employee.
Okay.
Or it's hard to be full-time. I'm part-time.
I
am an employee.
You're not a contract. You're not
No, I'm not contracted.
So, but could you do what you do? You couldn't do what you do now and this whole other thing, right? You'd have to do one or the other, I assume.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what the laws are up here, but in Florida, you technically could have 2 dealing jobs at 2 different casinos, but they would have to be at least 100 miles apart.
Oh, wow.
That was the stipulation. Up here, I assume it's a lot stricter. You can't do any of that. So usually travel dealers do travel dealing full time. They'll be on for 2 months, off for a week or 2, on for another month or something, just getting these ad hoc events that come up.
Did you try to apply at the room? Those other 2 rooms got to be closer to you, right, than the one you work at now?
Yeah, I tried applying at both those rooms, but for some reason I got rejected from one, which is ridiculous. I have experience. I have no criminal history. The casino gives a fuck about that.
Right.
For all you felons out there, casino jobs, very good. They hire.
Good to know.
Good to know. A coworker of mine, I don't want to get into it, was working at a place and had a very serious felonious incident, and only was fired from that place because he missed work because of said felonious incident.
Not because of the incident.
Not because of the incident.
Right.
And got hired at a new place the next week.
Because they didn't miss any time there.
And they knew about it.
Right.
The poker community is tight-knit.
Yep.
When something happens, people know. But, it wasn't with malice or anything.
Right. Anytime, it's 2025. We're only going to tolerate so much.
Yeah. So, they had no problem picking him up. So,
Ime Udoka still gets to coach in the league.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly.
It was just quite at the level, but not enough to be barred.
Yeah, casino industry is quite forgiving. So I was surprised I got rejected from
one of them. Yeah.
The other one just never got back to me. Very
That's,
strange. Also,
ghost or a nonverbal rejection.
Mm-hmm.
I'd almost prefer that.
So.
Because if I don't hear back from you, then I know it's a no. You know.
Exactly.
I don't need you to tell me that I'm an asshole.
So, but you know, don't let that dissuade you. To all those people out there who may be working kind of a shitty job, dealing is a great job, and it's very, you know, it will require a little work to get into, but I highly recommend people dealing for people who kind of need an in-between job or just something stable for a few years to just build some capital. Dealing is a great gig.
Bro, want to hear why I was never a poker dealer? I got hired at the Bicycle Casino.
Really?
To deal, yeah, when I first moved to California. And guess why they fired me after like 3 days of training?
Uh-oh. Why?
Guess why?
Guess why? What the fuck? You're like, I can't think of what you do to get fired. What the heck did you do?
You weren't allowed to have weed in your system.
What? In That's like the last thing I'd guess.
Bro,
in California?
And that's why I didn't even let you guess, because when I went in for the drug test, I'm like, well, they're not looking for weed, right? That's all I had in me. And they said, nah, bro, you had cannabis, you can't work here.
That's so weird.
It was such a disappointment. I was like, bro, so I never tried to work in a casino again after that.
I was never even drug tested once for any of my dealing jobs.
It's hilarious.
To all you drug users, to all you felonious drug users out there, there is hope.
That's why I would always. That's why I stayed in restaurants. You know, restaurants were always like that. I've never even heard of a restaurant drug testing anyone at any level ever.
Yeah,
maybe for management at like a big corporate type situation, but no.
Yeah,
not the server bartend.
I mean, in this day and age, unless there's a place getting federal funding, they're usually pretty chill with pot smoking.
Right.
Especially in legal states. I have no idea what...
That's why I couldn't believe it, too, when I was down there.
That's
2013,
crazy.
2014, I think it was. 2013.
I mean, I guess it was a little different then, but still, what the...
But no, weed had been legal there for at least, I think, 15, 20 years already.
What the fuck? That's so weird.
Yeah, I was annoyed. But it's all good, because I got a really good serving job after that, so it's like, whatever. I made way more money. And then I didn't have to... They were like, yeah, we'll pay you like this an hour for these tables and $1 more an hour for the smoking tables. And I'm like, God damn, they put me in smoking section. So I never had to work in a smoking section, so I'm glad about that.
Yeah, no, I feel bad for dealers that have to do that. That's terrible.
That's pretty like 80s, 70s kind of abuse right there.
It's abuse. And
it's absolutely abuse.
You're not getting compensated for it. And
yeah, $1, bro. An hour.
Yeah.
An hour, $1, bro. That gets taxed, so 60 cents.
Not worth
65 cents.
Not worth 20 years of your life.
All right, so one thing I've noticed that we've talked a lot about is a lot of live, but when did online become like kind of a thing of yours? Because I feel like, for me, if I had to give like a ratio, my experience from live to online, like, and I really do hate that it's this way, but it's like 95.5 online to live.
Really?
I've played at least, I've played probably at this point close to 1.6 million hands online. It was 1.5 for a while, but since I got back into it this year, was that like, yeah. We're probably nearing in. Nah, it's probably 1.55 because I'm only about 50,000 hands on the year.
That explains why you're so tight. I'm just kidding.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
I'm used to multi-table folding forever.
Yeah, so that explains a lot. I actually started out online when COVID happened.
Mm-hmm. What was your first online site? Was it ACR?
It was ACR.
Yep.
And I was...
Damn.
I was playing... I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was playing, oh sure, a tournament. Oh sure, cash. Oh sure, 510 online. Why not?
Yeah.
I was playing 510 online when I had no idea what I was doing. And I was, like, breaking even somehow. Like, winning 2K one day, losing 2K the next day, you know. Yeah. That didn't go on for long. I think I, like, you know, I remember the hand. I had a king high straight, and he had ace king for the bigger straight. I had king 9 on, like, a queen jack 10 board.
Yep, and you learned that day why king 9 is the inferior.
Now that was a $1,700 learning experience.
Yep.
And that's what I think, I don't really pay people to coach me. I didn't really, I only got free coaching online from YouTube videos and just other things to kind of help me out.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the things and the themes I hold about poker are from live personal experience, getting wrecked in certain situations.
Yep.
And it's always a mistake that you make, and you say, I know that is a mistake. There's no positive aspect to this. There's no silver lining. It's a mistake, and I'll never do it again.
Right. Well, like, that's the silver lining, is that you've learned that.
Yeah. That is the only silver lining. But yeah, there's nothing that could be construed as to, oh, well, maybe it was a good bluff. No, it's terrible.
Right.
You made a mistake. It's okay. Mistakes happen. And I think Jungle Man was talking about this. He said, when you're in a group of friends and you all play poker, you all think you're good winning players. You know, maybe one out of you is a very good winning player, and the other of you are either average or losing. And you always think you're better than you are. You always think other people are worse than they are. So when you have to be humble. You have to be humble, and you have to respect players, but categorize them and take advantage of them. I was going somewhere. I totally forgot.
You're good.
Totally forgot where I was going.
It's fine. I can maybe it'll help get you back to where you're going, because it's funny. I will interject. One of my biggest weaknesses is I really am very opposite of that a lot of the times. Like, and I don't mean to give away a lot of my secrets on here. We were talking a lot earlier, and I was like, "You're not recording, right?" But one of my secrets is, I mean, even saying it right now, I know that there's because I know that I just don't know shit about so much of my opponents that I could never possibly make that assessment. Like, I just, and that inherently will deter from my confidence in knowing what the right action is, because I see people make actions, and even if I see their cards at the end of the hand, like, I never get the chance like this to sit down with them and be like, so what the fuck were you thinking there, bro? Like, so even the whole enigma of it leads a little bit less for me personally, whereas I'm sure I will over-evaluate my skill, but I think my bigger issue is definitely overestimating my opponent's ability to maybe like either read me or just like my... I think it's like a combination of that, like what they're reading, and it's like I feel like I'm always being so obvious. Everything I do I feel like is always so obvious that like how could I possibly profit from this, because it's just so obvious what I'm doing.
Yep. And that, unfortunately, or fortunately, is a sign of a good player who is profitable online. It's you have to be trappy, but you have to have respect. So
that transition's been tough for me. I'll tell you that.
It's super hard, but
this is. Do you want to hear something? Not to interrupt, but like this is actually the first year where I've been a winning casino player. I've tried many times. This is my first stint where I've ever actually had like a. Yeah, I've always lost to the rake. Like I could never beat the rake. I would always be like, after like 100 hours, I'd be down like, several thousand, or after like this whole, I'd play 20 sessions and be like down like 2K, and it's like, it's just not for me right now. I'll just go back to online, where I can just play in a smaller game, easier. Like, and the whole thing about it is like everything online is just so streamlined and easy. I've actually always viewed online poker as the most purest form of poker, because live, there's just so much bullshit.
Oh, that's it's unbelievable.
Like, even let's just talk about like a card being exposed. Like, you're laughing because it's like, when's the last time a card was exposed on the internet and it wasn't a god account reading someone's entire action type situation? Yeah. Like, oh, that flipped. It's like that's not poker to me. Like, that's a jungle where cards happen to be played. I don't know how else to properly phrase that.
You were exactly right, and I think that shows our contrasting styles. It's not one style is better than the other. It's your style. You were born and bred online. Your style is completely suited to being a winning player online. My style is mostly from live play.
Yeah.
And I have to adjust big time when I go online. And playing online was a massive adjustment for me, because live games are always looser. People will always call you lighter.
You can't. And the funny thing is about live games versus online is live poker is dealt in absolute dollars, and online poker is dealt in big blinds. And like there is no big no one gives a fuck about a big blind live. I've never you hear people talk blocker, range, cap. I ain't never heard a motherfucker once talk about how many big blinds a bet was
it's true.
At the table.
Live players do not think in big blinds. They just don't.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
And that's why it's a completely different game.
It really is, yeah. Because it's almost like the average stack on an online site would be like about 100 big blinds, typically. Mm. And you view that as 100 big blind stack, whereas like whatever you can buy in for at the max at that particular live table is the stack. It doesn't matter how many big blinds it is. That's your stack. Yep. And people will stack off or they won't stack off. It just is what it is.
Yep. Excellent point. And, to that point, I would say the choice of games you play in is a massive determinant in your success. If you have to know how your personality matches to your playing style. Mm-hmm. If you are an introverted person, live is probably not the place for you.
Right.
You're going to get anxious. You're going to get bullied at the table over and over again.
I used to a lot.
You're going to be easy to read. Mm-hmm. If you're introverted, don't play live.
It's almost like you have to learn how to that whole fake it until you make it thing. Like if you want to use live as a chance to fake it, there's your chance, because I remember there was one time I was sitting at the bike And you know how like you were saying silent killer earlier. I forget if you said that on camera or off camera. I just wouldn't really talk a lot at all, and like sometimes like if people would say stuff to me, like I didn't know what to reply, I just wouldn't say anything. And so I remember one time this guy was like, "You don't say nothing, do you?" And I never replied for that, so I didn't say nothing. And then like he like, just kept going on and on. Like I never replied to anything he said, so I just sat there the whole night not saying a damn thing. And it was in a weird way empowering because I was like, "You can't get me to say nothing," but at the same time, I so wanted something to say. But I didn't have it. I didn't know what the correct answer was. So I knew that if I just didn't open my mouth, I at the very least wouldn't let him have the satisfaction of breaking me or whatever his goal was to annoy me or whatever.
I mean, that's exactly how I think everyone should start out. I don't think if you're an extrovert, even if you're an extrovert and you say, you know, yeah, I want to be the crazy guy at the table, I want to run the action, but also be a crusher, and I'm just starting out in live. To anyone just starting out in live, go there, be quiet, play tight, be a sponge. Hear people say things. You will start to hear patterns. You'll start to see patterns in the way people are betting, the sizings. Just go and be a sponge and play tight and pay attention to all of those things. The game will start to come easier to you. Then you can start interacting with people, say, trying to bait out information by volunteering some of your own, whether it be fake or not, whatever. The poker table live is your oyster. You can be whoever you want to be at the poker table. If you're like me and, you know, in real life you're a pretty chill, quiet guy, I don't really like to raise my voice, I don't really like to touch people or be violent or any of this. I'm a very mellow guy. Mm-hmm. At the poker table, I'm not. I have a completely different persona most of the time because I want to create a certain table image that I know is profitable to me. Whether that be, you know, pretending I don't speak English.
Yep.
Whether that be wearing a loose-fitting button-down shirt and telling the table immediately when I sit down that I'm from Florida, I'm on here on a family vacation, I just want to get out of the house. You can concoct whatever story you want based on the people who are there that you think will get you the most action. You know, 3 hands down, I stacked a guy with aces pretending that I was, you know, Mr. Loose Florida Man because I was making big raises. And they didn't believe me. Mm. So people, I think that is the thing that's just never talked about, ever. They're like, oh yeah, Nick Airball, he's a poker personality, you know, this and that. Have you seen Nick Airball bluff? It's fucking horrible. It's fucking terrifying. It's a horrible bluff attempt. He's like, he either goes like this, or he like drinks a soda. Like, for a guy named Nick Airball,
I did see the fake soda drink on the 500k bluff against, was it Keating?
Yeah. So it's like,
isn't that like literally like level 1?
It's level 1.
Like
and it's crazy.
Level 1 is to take a drink. Like in case you guys don't know, level 1 is to take a drink when you're bluffing to make yourself seem like you're comfortable when you're absolutely fucking not comfortable.
Because your mouth gets dry when your sympathetic nervous system is doing things to your body that, you know, you unconsciously don't even know. So yeah, if you bluff someone and you take a sip of your drink, that's a big tell. Also, well, this is a very big tell. For all you live players that are new, this is a great tell on if someone has a very good hand. If their hands are shaking, they have a good hand. 99% of the time, if their hands are shaking, they have a good hand. Old, young, it doesn't matter. If they are trying to act a little too cool and relaxed, if they're a little too talkative, they're probably bluffing. At low stakes, bluffing happens very infrequently, so keep that in mind, but just a little tidbits to think about if you're ever in that situation.
It's so funny too, because like in the spots where bluffing happens infrequently, like let me rephrase, bluffing does happen infrequently, but in the spots that it does happen, it's like that's 100% of bluff. It's like it only happens infrequently because those spots are not common, but when they pop up, it's like you know it.
I have like in low and mid stakes in 1, 2, 2, 5, very infrequently at 5-10, I've seen people like bluff their stack on the river. When the solver says you're actually supposed to be bluffing your stack like a lot more than people do in live, a lot more. Mm-hmm. So you never see people bluffing their stacks at live, their entire stack on the river.
Right.
A river bluff with your whole stack, never a bluff. It's always the nuts or something. I take that into account every I've been trying to put a bluff in every session now because I'm still working on my bluffing, but like every few sessions, if you see an opportunity for a good river jam as a bluff, try it. Just try it. And you might be surprised by the results. You might be surprised by what you get folds from. This was an interesting hand I played yesterday. I flopped a set.
Where are we playing?
This is on a home game on GG, so it's a 1-2 game, about $350 effective.
They do rake on this?
No, this is just a friendly game. So
I don't fully understand how GG works.
it's just it's a ring 8
But it's
max
real money
game.
though, right?
Real money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can host it yourself?
Yeah, so
That's
it's
cool.
the money is in between players. There's no money on the actual site. All the money is in between players. So there's a guy who runs the game. You give him $200, he'll put 200 chips in your account.
Got it.
You say cash me out, he'll send you $200.
Got it. I've done that. I've seen those before.
Yeah,
Played those.
so it's an agent type system.
Yeah.
And I run into a situation where I end up turning bottom boat into a bluff against middle boat.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird hand.
Hold them?
Hold 'em. Very weird hand. Essentially, we both have less than half. Or we have a little more than half pot on the river. Both of us. We have a little more than half pot, and he bets 90, which is we will have like $200. There's like 380 in the pot left. He bets half a stack, and I put him in, and he tanks for about a minute, and then he folds pocket eights.
What was the board?
4-8 Jack Jack Queen.
Okay.
And he folded pocket eights. It was a single raise pot pre-flop. And it's just spots like that when you cannot possibly be bluffing. There are no bluffs in this spot. You don't even need blockers. Fuck the blockers. When you cannot possibly be bluffing, as the hand is played out, you have to go for it, and people just don't go for it. I see so many bluff attempts where it's like, okay, he played that well on the flop. Okay, he check raised the flop. He bombed the turn, and he didn't fall through on the river, and it would have worked.
In the hand that you just described, though, I feel like my logic would never be like, oh, they're bluffing, though. I would just assume that someone's like overvaluing a jack and then just call.
Correct. But one of the biggest parts of, because I went from being a super nit to being like borderline maniac. The reason I did this is because I discovered the magic of fold equity. Fold equity are my two favorite words in poker. Fold equity, because I'm mainly a cash player. It works in tournaments too, but fold equity, man. It's not about the percentages of the hands. It's about how often you can get people to fold, even their great hands, even near top of range hands. So when you get into spots where they have strong value, and you know they have strong value because either you have information about them, you played with them before, just every now and then, just try it. And you might be surprised to say, if they have the nuts, I'd say try this on certain types of boards. Don't try this on paired boards. Don't try this on one-liners. Don't try this on, high card boards if you have low cards, Make have some reasonable story you're telling. You have to tell a story. So you have to tell your story from pre-flop. So, oh, he just called. He could have a set on this board if the board comes like Jack 8-6 and I have aces and then he check raises me. What could he have? Jack 8, pocket 8s, pocket jacks very infrequently, more pocket 8s, pocket 6s, maybe 8-6, maybe 9-10 suited with a backdoor.
Did you know this person that you're playing against?
No, I didn't know them, but the game was playing very tight.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a friendly game, the game was playing very tight.
Yeah. I find the different, this really is just like the classic leveling war, though. I find you can tell us, even let's call it a movie, you can give an audience, show them all the same movie, and some people are just so dumb they're going to come out with a completely wrong interpretation of what it was all about.
Correct.
And that is where I will always find that's why I asked if you knew the person. I try to identify is this the kind of person who can follow a story before I would even think about trying something like that, because it's gone. I can't tell you how many times I've run a line where it's how the hell I have to have it here,
Mm-hmm.
and in theory I do, but they just call because they had a hand.
And they just call one pair or something.
Yeah, just ace, top pair aces, or
Wow.
whatever.
Wow.
I don't know. This is the I don't know how to word it, man. I'm sure there's probably a lot of we were talking earlier, the instances where I will bet 3-bet overzealous willy nilly, and the times where it works, maybe I overvalue, and that will carry me to do it more often. Perhaps these bluffing instances not working have been the opposite of that, where it's the few times where I do get snapped off, I'm all right, never doing that again.
Yeah, you can't say that. You just say, all right, well, why did this bluff not work? Instead of saying, fuck, never do that again. What a punt. Say, Okay, well, what about this bluff didn't work? Maybe his range was a lot narrower than I thought. Because he did. He did call a 3-bet out of position pre-flop. Like fuck. Like maybe his range is a lot smaller than I thought, and maybe his range only contains super premiums there. That's why on this board, yeah, I have a blocker to a straight and a flush, but he still called me with top set because me make good hand, me call. So, blockers be damned. It's about how far your opponent's willing to continue with value. Exactly like you said. And some of these people continue crazy with not even value, with,
like the
bluff
hand
catchers.
connects and they can't, let it go because it connected. Yeah. They have to.
Yep. And you're right. You have to know your audience. If, I play like a maniac in very certain situations when I believe it's plus EV, and it's good for me to have a certain image and show down certain hands at the table so that I can get paid later. That's just my personal style. It's very specific. Not many people use it because I only plan to be there, for a few hours and then leave. I'm not planning on doing like a marathon session, but I want to set up a table image for myself, get myself in a very positive situation for a lot of big blinds, and then get the fuck out of there before everyone realizes what even happened.
Well, then how would you, I don't know how to word it, treat a, say you were to play at like a smaller room, would you just not play there very frequently? Would you not try to play that style?
Completely different style.
Mm-hmm.
This is for large room, like I was talking about earlier. You can be the villain in the large room. So in the large room, I am the villain, I am the maniac, I am, whatever story you want to pick.
Yeah.
In the small room,
just because it's so easy to adjust to that style, I feel like you can't really do it day in and day out.
You cannot. You have to do it with people you don't know at large field events. In a smaller setting, it's actually more beneficial for you to be a much more extroverted person in the sense of finding people, caring about people, connecting with people on different levels, and you may hate this person, you say this person's a terrible person, the things that they say, yada yada yada. You can always find a level to connect with people. So connect with all the people you can, be known in that small poker room as a good person, do right by people. That doesn't mean lending money. Do not lend money to people.
Ever. To anybody.
Do not lend money to poker players.
Don't lend money to anyone at a casino ever.
I don't care if they give you their address or whatever.
Or anything.
Don't lend money to people.
It's just and all I say personally is it's just, I don't, not for you, sorry, that's just not for anybody. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
And my logic is basically, I would never ask.
The only people I ask for a loan if I want to go play something are my absolute closest die-hard poker friends. I've been friends with them for years.
Right.
You want action, or yo, float me 400 because I want to go play this cash game. No problem. That's friends.
I feel like you have to establish this kind of dynamic before. You can't you can't have known the person only from the casino.
No. You need to be genuinely friends, hanging out, have rapport, and a lot of these friendships that I built up with these poker players, it's kind of been in reverse. It's been, I've played at one of their games, they've owed me thousands of dollars.
Yep.
They said, I'll get it to you. They get it to me, then I play at their game on credit, I lose. I lose $2,000. Hey, I'll get it to you. I do. Now we are building trust.
Right.
Now we become friends. That is a rare situation, and it's the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare, and it doesn't happen to most people.
Right, but the thing is, that's the problem too. Is with being friendly, is the more friendly you are with people, the more people you're gonna get trying to scam you and take advantage of you and all that nonsense.
Correct. So it's important to be nice and kind at the poker table.
But you gotta set that line.
Yeah, there's a line. And you can be as polite as possible about it. You can just give up some fucking bullshit. Just tell a lie. My fellow poker players, you can lie about more than just your hand.
Right.
People don't know that. People will tell you all about themselves at the table.
Yeah.
Dude, just fib. Pretend you're a secret agent. I don't know, whatever. Put some truths in there to make it believable. Just lie. No one. You're trying to take money from these people. This is a blood sport. And if being nice allows you to take their money easier because they're willing to call you lighter, or it allows you to overbluff them because they're overfolding to you because they respect you, I'm sorry, you need to do that. You are hurting yourself with your personality type if it's not correct to the environment you're playing in.
100%. It's funny to speak on that. There was this kid. I don't remember his name or anything. Maybe you know who it is. He huge grinder who's grinding that promo the hours one. and like we were at a 2-5 table, and dude just got there, and it's like there was some spots at this table, and refused to straddle. And like the vibe already was like getting on the downhill thing, and it's like I get it, and it's like now there's two actually things. There was he refused to straddle, and there was this one dude who's being just like basically a dick to him about it, and it's like you don't want to be that guy either though. Like you want to try and keep the game going the way you've had it been going. When someone shows force and restriction, you kind of just have to let them be that way. Honestly, like let them be the sore thumb. But because then this other kid then started ragging on him, like bro, we've been straddling all damn day, and now you want to come in here and ruin it. And it's like I get his logic because for me, I would never play at a game if I wasn't ready to straddle in that game. That's my because like it's just. Straddling is part of going with the flow, and when someone says, "Hey, you guys down to straddle?" Like 2, 3, 4 people start saying yes. If you're the one person to say no, get the fuck off the table, bro. Like that's how, because you just killed your image right there. Like who's gonna pay you off at that point? Who's gonna even play pots with you?
Yep.
And the only people that are gonna do that are maybe you'll get some spite equity, where people just try to like stack you because they don't like you.
But more often than not, you're just gonna get no action because people just refuse to play with you.
Basically, which is good if you want to steal some small pots.
But you're costing yourself all this EV by not.
Just playing along.
Just play, yeah, exactly.
And it's for was it $10? It's for $10 a round of EV, and it's like, bro, if you can't make back that $10 on your button,
you're not a winning player.
Fuck, man.
You're not a winning. I'm sorry.
Because, and the thing is too, like, and I didn't really fully get this at first either, but after studying Wizard, man, and seeing some of how these 3-blind structures open up ranges, bro, I never want to play 2-blinds again.
No,
like, 2-blind fucking sucks because under the gun is shit. It's complete fucking shit. Yep. It's like you might as well, like whenever I'm like ready to go to the bathroom, might as well just fucking set it under the gun, dude, instead of waiting to under the gun and fold your hand, because you get to play that shit like literally 9% of the time, and most of it is like just such a bad spot. Like you're like half raising ace jack offsuit, and it's like you don't even feel good about it.
Yeah, and you're supposed to raise aces to 3 big blinds and give all the other people odds to call, and you go 3 ways to a flop, and it's scary, and you fucking fold your aces. What happened?
Right, and those are the spots too where like I actually maybe even can get behind like checking the overpair, because like your hand just, it's almost like you want to see everyone check back in like the bottom card on the turn pair, so you can at least beat some 2 pairs and something. But in a 3-blind game though, the first to act can play more hands, and then it's almost like this weird second game, this second structure. If you can get it so that where the button is less likely to steal in a 3-blind format, and because of this, it will fold around to the small blind a lot, and that's almost like a second little hand, because now the straddle is like the new button.
Yep.
And it just plays like, I don't know, so much better, so much different, and because in those 3 positions, you can almost play like every person's supposed to play a huge percentage of their hands. So the whole game revolves around more people playing more hands. So 3-blind for the win. If anyone does not get that, we'll talk about that more on the channel later when I break down GTO Wizard and like some ranges and such. But if you can implement an ante as well, all the better, but we can't really do that live because it changes the structure too much. But we can change into a permanent 3-blind structure if everyone agrees to straddle.
And you bring up an excellent point that I don't think we've talked about enough. It's the straddle at live. The straddle massively, massively, massively changes a game, especially if depending on where they're straddling from. Ideally, if you're playing in a Mississippi straddle game, that's going to be a better game on average than a game where you have to straddle under the gun or you can only straddle the button. A Mississippi straddle game allows so much more weird bullshit to happen. And like I said, if you don't like weird bullshit, if you like getting your edge, finding your edge, only playing the premiums, getting the perfect value, making perfect GTO bets, that works better for online. If you want to, dig your teeth into the crazy wild jungle that is live with a Mississippi straddle on, then that's for you. Straddles from the button.
Those are tough, and they make the game very tight.
Yes and no. If in theory they do. In theory they do. In practice,
right,
not as much. They actually make the game looser, which is completely mind-blowing because antes are supposed to make the game looser. A straddle is supposed to make the game tighter because people are opening less of their hands. What happens in practice and live is instead of limping for $2, everybody limps for $5. So instead of there being $10 in the pot $4 or $6 in the pot by the time it comes to you on the button, everyone's acted before, you get a fucking 4 or 5 limpers. It'd be like $25 in the pot. So what do you do from the button? You make it 35. What hands are calling 5 and then recalling 35?
Well, it depends on how many times you've raised from the straddle.
That just goes with creating your image. So here's a great little game plan for the next time you're at your local casino, and you can straddle on the button. Every time the button comes to you, you straddle. If you have a marginal hand that's, in the bottom 40% of your range, just check it. Whatever, go to flop, hope to get lucky. If you have a hand that's in the top, 50 or 60% of your range, I don't care if it's, 9-7 suited. 3-bet that shit to $35.
Raise, you mean?
Raise that shit to $35. If there's no aggressive action towards you at a low stakes game, these are not good hands. Not many hands can call 5 and then recall 35. What do I do if I get called? Okay, so your opponent's range is now capped completely and condensed, unless they're an OMC and they're trapping aces. So just that probably won't happen. But now your opponent is extremely capped and you are not. You could have anything. You straddle on the button and then squeezed. You could have anything.
Raised. I'm going to correct you because I'm a net about poker terminology.
But it's still a squeeze raise.
No, a squeeze is a open raise, a call, and then a 3-bet.
Anyway, I'm from Florida. We use all the wrong terminology.
It's all good.
you raise.
I only do it because we're doing the recording and for people who listen to this, and then they'll comment and be like, "That's not that." And it's like, guys, I got you. Don't worry.
Don't drive like my brother. Anyway, so it's you're.
I just noticed that you have the Hard Rock.
Oh yeah, Hard Rock Tampa.
There you go.
Watch out, they're good down there. You raise to a large size to just eliminate all the hands that are limping for 5. What are those hands? King 10 off. I've seen disgusting shit. Jack 4 off just limps for no reason. Jack 9 off. Jack 10 off. Even stuff like King Queen off. Just if they're last to fold, you could decide it's not worth it to play hand King Queen off out of position for $35 pre-flop. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people fold fucking Ace King to that shit. I've seen them limp with... This is really bad OMCs. I've seen bad OMCs limp Ace King to a straddle. I raise to a large amount with a marginal holding, and they fold Ace King face up to me because, you probably have a good pair and I don't want to flip. From a GTO sense, maybe they have a point. From a live sense, massive mistake.
They don't have a GTO point either.
Exactly. So...
I not see like the good logic in that, but when people are like risk averse, say they've been losing all day, like that's the time when they play their Ace Kings like that, like horribly,
Yeah, horribly. So you will be surprised at what you get folds from, and if you get called, your opponent's range is capped. They probably have either an ace high type hand, or they have a small pair or a medium pair hoping to set mine. That's really the only things that'll call you there. All better hands are raising.
Yeah.
All trapped hands that like trapped and waited for you to do that will be setting the trap, spraying the trap. They'll be raising now. So when your opponent calls, they're really capping themselves very, very heavily. And you can represent really whatever the fuck you want. It's a beautiful spot to be in. You can tell you started the story off great. They all limp to you in the straddle, and you picked up a hand in the straddle and you raised to a large amount. Now you either get a non-believer or someone who's exactly very capped on their range. No matter what the board comes, it's better if it comes scary. But no matter what the board comes, you can represent stuff. And if you start to face resistance, you know that they flopped a very, very, very good hand. And you can let it go. Most of the time, they're going to miss the flop if they're set mining. Most of the time, if they have an ace high hand, the flop comes 3 low cards. They're just going to check fold. Mm-hmm. Live poker is about telling a story. They don't think in big blinds like we talked about. It's a totally different game for a totally different type of personality. So if you're going to tell the story, you got to tell it right, and you can't be a pussy about it and not jam the river.
Right.
Sometimes you got to jam the river. Sometimes you got to know when to shut down. If OMC calls my flop and turn bluff, which I probably shouldn't have even bluffed on the turn, but if OMC calls my flop and turn bluff, obviously I'm not jamming the river. But if it's a young guy and you're like he's kind of fishy and fish over call.
Yeah.
So if he's over call, and then the river comes another high card or a scary card, you can represent anything, and you can get folds from. You would not believe what you get folds from. So just try taking that line. Try, Jack 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, King Jack off. These marginal hands, just try raising large from the button, and half the time they'll all fold. You'll make $20, and then the other half the time when they don't fold, they'll call, and 25% of the time they'll make a hand that's decent enough to call a flop. 12% of the time they'll make a hand on the turn that's decent enough to call a turn barrel, and like 6% of the time they'll have a hand that's decent enough to call a river jam.
Yeah.
See how profitable that is? It's printing. So just try it. You can't spam it. You know, it's not like the best move in a fighting game where you can just spam it over and over. No, you can't spam it. You can spam raising large from the straddle, but I wouldn't spam this bet jam line too often.
And what he means by that for you non-fighting game players is like if you do something every time, it's going to be very obvious. You know, you gotta kind of like earlier you when you're saying when you're choosing your randomizers, you know, you'll choose the times when the people in the blinds look like they're ready to fold. You'll choose the times when people really look disinterested in the pot. That will be your randomizer because you can't do some things every time.
Yep, exactly correct.
Cool, man. Let's do like a couple other little ones and then we'll like close it up. What about other non-Hold'em poker? What have you played?
I have played...
I know you're talking Omaha earlier.
So I've played a lot of home games. So one kind of variant that I've played a lot of is PLO4 high. So just the high hand, single pot. Double board bomb pots. A ton of them. It's what people do in Florida to gamble after they played Hold'em at the home game all night.
Yep.
They get into a gambling phase. Sometimes the Hold'em can only last an hour, and everyone be like, all right, fuck it, I want to gamble now. It is extremely high variance. It is higher variance than playing normal Omaha because you have a massive ante from the very beginning. The SPR is always going to be tiny.
Tiny, yep.
But
8 people in the pot.
There's still an edge in these games. And it's very specific. It's only against players who are not that experienced in the archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Experienced players in the archetype, winning players in the archetype, there's no edge. There's nothing. But if you got a couple drinks in you, and you got nothing on the top board, but you got an open-ended straight flush draw on the bottom board, and it's 160 to call, and you have 500 in your stack, might call. Let's try to hit the straight flush, get half the pot.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that when the other guys got you crushed on both boards already.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that game, you need to have equity on both boards. Or have one board completely locked up, no other hand could possibly beat you, or replicate you. For example, quads, or straight flush, or top boat, you know.
For those of you non-flip pot players, he's talking about not getting quartered.
Yeah,
which is a very big thing.
There could be a situation where you and the other player only chop half the pot because you both have like the same straight.
Ace king, basically, you know.
Yeah,
king. Yeah, but then they beat you on the second board.
But then they beat you on the other board, so you only
just because you have it locked up doesn't mean shit.
So just because you have the nuts on one board does not really mean anything.
Exactly.
Which is crazy for Hold'em players. So
right.
I'd advise Hold'em players against that unless you really study PLO first.
Mm-hmm.
You have to study PLO first to be proficient at that game.
It'd probably be easier to go and play Hold'em bomb pots first than play PLO.
Yes. And yeah, that game is very high variance.
Yeah.
But I have made thousands playing that game just from non-believers, just from having one board locked up, it going 50-50-50 and me raising to 125 and they all call. It's not really you're stacking people, it's when you have one board locked up or you have massive equity on both, you can get a lot of calls from other people who just are either drawing on one board or have a massive hand on one and nothing on the other. So just working on inflating pots when you have the nuts, which is like you were talking about earlier, it's like, oh, it's so obvious when I raise I have a good hand. Make it unfoldable. The pot's 350. No one's going to fold to another $75 raise. That's where you get your edge. So just these tiny little like cute bets, but it's you know, mosquito bite bets where you're just small value, where you know you're getting the board locked up. It's not a matter of if I'm winning this hand, it's how much can I win from this hand.
And those are the spots too where you have to like then be okay to let it go and just don't try to backdoor yourself into thinking, oh man, I might have induced a raise here with my small bet. It's like, no, fuck that. Even if you did, like, it's not often enough, in my experience at least.
Yeah.
Because every time I'm like, oh, betting quarter pot on the river for value when I could check back, and then I get check raise, I'm like, they probably know I'm doing this with a medium strength hand, and they're probably trying to bluff me here. They're never bluffing me there.
They're never bluffing. River raises are usually nutted. River raises are nutted. Large river bets are nutted.
Yep.
Most of the time. I play a good amount of PLO. I used to play the 2-2 game. I don't really play that much Omaha anymore.
So if you were to go to a casino, would you look for Omaha or Hold'em?
I would go to whichever game is best. Usually that's Hold'em. Usually the Omaha games at most casinos, unless it's late at night and there's newcomers when there's a series or something or tournaments going on, usually it's going to be a lot of regs that know how to play the game and they know what they're supposed to fold, they know what they're supposed to raise, they know the sizings, they don't just pot, pot, pot. If you see a game and just everyone's going pot, 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 pot and they don't know their sizings, you hop the fuck in that game because you're going to crush that game.
In PLO, are you supposed to raise pre-flop to other mounts than pot?
Good question. It depends.
So can you ever raise like min in PLO, like on the button?
Yeah, you can. It's theory says PLO theory, the most misplayed street of PLO is preflop. So with PLO, you want to get as much money as you can and reduce the SPR with your good hands as possible. So if you have a hand that has, say, 34% equity three ways, and you have a rough idea of what you're up against, you are supposed to squeeze that hand every single time. So when you have very strong value hands, yeah, you're supposed to reduce the SPR as much as possible and say pot.
But like in PLO, like I don't know how to word it. There are no very strong value hands before the flop. It's all a fucking gamble.
No. Well, how much PLO have you played?
Not as much as Hold'em, obviously.
PLO is actually an extremely nuanced game, but it's really only pre-flop that the nuance happens. Post-flop, a lot of the decisions, unless you're playing at a very high tournament level, on a cash level, most of the decisions are kind of made for you based on your
All I mean by that is like there's no 80-20 in PLO. Like you're never gonna like there's what hand.
Oh, pre-flop?
Yeah.
80-20? No, there's no 80-20 pre-flop in PLO.
Right, it's all 60-40s from what I've noticed.
It's all 60-40s, but that's the goal of PLO. It's kind of like a professional blackjack player at a blackjack table. I know I'm only going to get a 10% edge, but I know over the long run, that 10% edge will print me money. So yes, that guy has ace, queen, 7, but I have 8, 9, 10, jack, double. So I have 60% equity against him pre-flop. So I know when that guy pots, since he's like, when that guy pots pre-flop or repots pre-flop, his range is really only aces. He doesn't care how good the aces are.
With your hand, are you supposed to pot like 3-bet pot at pre-flop if someone
Absolutely.
opens? Okay.
Absolutely.
Tell me how funny. Okay, now I need you to tell me like how awful this is or how hilariously brilliant this is on a scale of 0 to 10. This has been my general strategy for based on like what you just said too is like why I'm asking you this right now because I thought about it earlier, but only because you said this is why I'm asking you it right now. My strategy with ace XX has been I literally never 3-bet that shit before the flop. I only 4-bet it.
That's a very you could do that,
but I'll still 3-bet all the other hands that you're like the wraps and all that shit.
It depends on how strong your aces are. If you have double suited aces, it's a slam dunk 3-bet every single time.
Why though? When like the equities run so close together?
Because you have the ability to make nutted hands, especially if you have something like ace deuce 4 double or ace jack 10 double that interact with your aces. And allow people, this is the crux of the argument, allow people to have king high flushes and queen high flushes in their range that will stack off with you.
But they'll still stack off with you if you just flat and you hit that shit post flop.
Well, yeah, you're hoping to go stack them off post.
But the main reason too though why I do this is because people don't put ace in your flatting range. So then when you come back over the top, it's like it's so much easier to pile money in the pot before the flop, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Very limited experience, obviously, when you're not the 3-better, because people always put you on ace XX, so they're not going to 4-bet you back without ace XX themselves.
Correct.
So if you just flat it and then repop them over the top, now they're fucked because the SPR is too big, and they can't even defend against that no more.
But, say you have, like what kind of aces would you do that kind of strategy with? Like ace.
Good aces.
Like ace, like double, are we talking double suited and connected?
Well, like, okay, take a hand, I would honestly probably play like shitty aces, like just like a normal call and like try to set mine.
Yes, correct.
And then like these solid ass aces though, I'm going to call with the intention of back raising, getting as much money in the pot as possible.
In an action game when you know that's going to happen, absolutely that is printing money, do that 100%. Like, if you know that this guy pots every hand, because sometimes you have those people in PLO, and this guy just opened.
Right, and they pot every hand, and more importantly, when I 3-bet, they're going to cold call that 3-bet. They're not going to come back over the top of me. But they will 3-bet it themselves, and then I can repot on top of them. Because the thing is really just the potting. Especially is when you're out of position and you're 3-betting, it's like, bro, you can't do shit about that.
Yep.
Like,
being out of position in PLO is very, very bad.
Because, like, so I feel like if you want to say have like a hand like this, really good aces maybe from the small blind, if you flat that and then let the big blind squeeze you, you're getting in. I know that they're not going to squeeze you every time, but you're getting in so much more money when they do. And like, dude, how the fuck do you play aces when the SPR is like 10? Like, it seems impossible.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes open, call, you're the fourth person to call, you have decent aces. It's not a squeeze spot. Your equity isn't there. It's not. It's just a call. But if you
Right.
if you have double suited or single suited and even connected aces, you must 3-bet. You must start pumping money into the pot. So when you make these nutted hands, you can stack off against people because they have such a low SPR they
But
can't
I
fold.
still I don't get why you can't just stack off against them post flop anyway. Like just go for like.
It's very rare that your aces are going to improve post flop
So why are we bloating the pot pre flop based on that pretense?
because you're looking to go heads up with a hand that has less equity than you.
With heads up and PLO.
Pre-flop, yeah.
No, but in this instance, you're saying raise, call. You're in the small blind. You 3-bet. The first person calls. Those next 3 people are coming along.
Correct. But you have a single suit and you have connectedness, so you have chances to improve. That's why, like, shitty aces...
Right, but I guess my exact point is, why would you, if you have like 25% equity against these other 5 hands total, you know, it's you 5 ways, 4 other hands, say you got 25 to 30%. This is like kind of my premise in Hold'em too, is I never really liked bloating the pot to the point where now it's easy to get stacks in, because that for some reason takes away from the fact that there's still 3 more rounds of betting in which to get those stacks in. And I guess in PLO, this is not a factor, but in Hold'em, you can always just overbet. Yeah. But in PLO, it's just, you're 1 check raise away from basically making up for the lack of a 3-bet. So I never really find that you're missing that much, especially because, I mean, now we're boiling down to like the real nitty-gritty of all Hold'em games. Until you see those 3 fucking cards on the flop, you don't know shit about the hand. So, especially when you're dealing with these like really narrow stack sizes, like 100 big blinds deep, and you got like these 12 big blind 3-bets, that's like a huge fucking percentage of your stack.
It's fucking more than 10% of your stack, and I don't think people appreciate that.
Whereas, like, if you're playing 1,000 big blinds deep, fuck it, speculate. It doesn't matter at that point.
Like, I don't think poker players think, even the people who think in big blinds, they don't think, this is 10% of my stack.
Well, earlier that's why we were saying with the 5-6 suited hand in your tournament, I was like, bro, that's a big fucking percentage.
It is.
But then I know you're talking about gambling and trying to build up a stack for a tournament, so it's like, whatever, I'll concede that point.
If I have anything that, you know, whether I flop something or not, it's if I can tell the story. Does the flop support this story that I'm telling, that I had a hand that was good enough to just flat a raise and then flat a 3-bet? What kind of hands are doing that?
That's like all the medium capped shit, you know?
All the cap shit. So I know I'm acutely aware of where I am in the hand. If the flop doesn't come to my capped range's benefit, let it go. If it does come to my capped range's benefit, I can overplay my hand to try to get fold equity because it hits my range.
I just don't think you have fold equity in that spot.
In that spot, the SPR might have been just too low.
Right, with the 60 big blind stack to start,
Yeah,
and he makes it 12.
Yeah.
That's why like we're like talking like 20% of a stack now.
But I'm saying like good players can still get away. Good players can make hero folds.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I can, because you do need to build a stack up to win a tournament, and getting a big one early does help a lot. It's just in cash games such where like chip equity is the actual chip equity and it's not like ICM. Yep. Like I feel like that is when what we're talking about now, like the 10-12% stacks is like you gotta be nitty with that kind of shit.
And people don't want to lose their stacks on level 2.
Right.
And suddenly they're in a situation where they have 1 pair and their opponent is leading the turn on a scary card for value.
So not to get too much into it, but so PLO, any other games like horror, what you call it? I was gonna say
no, I hate
like
horror.
Deuce to 7, Raz. What else is there?
I haven't had much experience playing them.
Pineapple.
I do love Deuce to 7. I think 7-card stud is almost essential training. I think
7-card stud. That's what I meant to say.
First of all, I think Omaha, learning how Omaha works and learning how 7-card stud works will only improve your Hold'em game. Because it broadens your knowledge of poker and what poker is. If your poker view is just Hold'em, you're being held back, man. I'm sorry. You need to broaden your horizons. You don't need to necessarily play all these games regularly, but just to understand the game of poker from a different headspace. You need to change your lens every now and then to keep it fresh.
Yep.
Because then it gets stale and then you turn into one of those people that quit after they take a bad beat. So just constantly expand your knowledge, like blockers, like nut blockers. I have turned my nut blocker experience from bluffing in PLO into massively profitable spots.
Yeah, that's where I learned about that. Like, you know, having the ace X, you know, flush or whatever when you're in a hand of Hold'em now, it's like completely different.
And that's why we were talking earlier about, you know, your hate for the solver's love of these suited ace wheels and even sometimes unsuited ace wheel hands and how they never interact with flops.
I just feel like those are the hands that they perform well in a vacuum, but then once you bring them into the real world, like you're just struggling over and over.
So maybe it's my maniac side. I've never heard anyone really talk about this, any professional. This might be like a live Florida thing. I don't know. If I have a certain hand and there's certain things going on in the pot, like there's a lot of dead money or something, and I have ace 4 offsuit, and I either raise to a large amount to go heads up to try to bluff later on. So I'm bluffing my hand pre-flop, essentially. This concept of bluffing your hand pre-flop. If the board comes 2 diamonds, I have ace 4 offsuit, but I have the ace of diamonds. Now I can rep a nut flush draw, which would bet in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And, say you bet the flop, they call, and say you check the turn and they bet and you call with nothing except the ace high flush blocker. You are calling on the turn with absolute air in hopes of a diamond coming on the river and you bluffing them. Because what else are you calling with? What else is betting? What else is, raising before the flop, betting the flop, checking down on the turn when they don't get there, calling a turn bet, and then a diamond comes on the river, you have the ace of, you still have ace high, but you have the blocker, and then you just open jam onto them if you're out of position. Even if you're in position, and it's even better if you're in position. It's even more believable because they check and then you jam. What else are you calling with? That's a spot where you have no bluffs because you have a blocker, and what's calling you is really only combo draws that hit a flush with you, which you're blocking. So it's less likely for that to happen.
Right.
So for all these reasons, just like intending to bluff the rest of this hand from before the flop, I think is really important. And it's live low stakes players will never, ever, 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 ever do this. You will never, ever see somebody raising before the flop as a bluff and then continuing to bluff all 3 streets and jam the river. You will never see that. You'll start seeing that at super high stakes because that's actually a very smart exploitative play against thinking players. But you won't see that at low stakes because the players aren't fucking thinking. So, there's also this idea, for all my low stakes, mid stakes players, 1-2, 2-5, you don't need to, sometimes you get in your own head thinking about all these concepts too much. It's simple, man. Stay tight. Just play tight. And if you see a bluff opportunity, if you see a live tell, go with your tell, go with your read. If somebody raises you and you got a bad gut feeling and you have a marginal hand, just let it go. Even if you have aces, it's still one pair. So just play tight and you will print at low stakes. All the stuff I've said, it's all specific exploits for specific situations. But generally, playing tight at low stakes, playing close to GTO will always net you profitable. It's really not hard. It's like playing a single player game, which is bad for your, if you intend to level up as a poker player. But if you just want to grind low stakes cash for the rest of your life, you don't need to do all that level up. You don't need to think about being balanced. You don't need to think about all these creative bluffs and people overfolding strong value hands because they won't. They don't fold narrow ranges in low stakes.
Right.
So it really, all of this is, I say with a grain of salt because it depends. It really depends.
Always, right?
It always depends. So everything I've just said, this whole podcast, it depends.
Yeah, man, for sure. We'll probably won't get to everything I had on my list earlier, but we're kind of like wrapping up. I feel like anything that you want to say or anything that we haven't really talked about yet, like anything you want to get out there. I mean, we have kind of open it up.
Yeah, my biggest message is, man, when someone's new at the table, you got to be nice to them. Poker is a small community. If you want to be a profitable player, you want more fish, right?
For sure.
Treat the fish nice, for God's sake. Don't be that misrig at the table that's like, how did you call with that? You're a terrible... Don't say that. Wow, nice hand, yeah. Get in with it. You have to be a gracious loser. You can hate losing. You should hate losing. Like I said, Trevor Bauer, give yourself 24 hours to feel miserable if you lose.
Mm-hmm.
But maintain your table image, man.
For sure.
Your table image is your money maker. Don't sacrifice your money maker with your emotions.
Right.
Keep the emotions out of it. Go be emotional on your own time. Go mourn, go have your little hand funeral later with your friends. Because you always tell your bad beat stories to your friends.
Yeah.
So at the table when that happens, guard your table image. Because it's going to print you money in the long term. This is a short-term variance. This is not how it's always going to be, even if you lose fucking 10 of them in a row. Stay gracious in defeat, and your opponents will love playing with you because they're like, oh my god, he obviously has the money to lose. He doesn't even care that he just lost that huge pot.
Right.
He just said nice hand and laughed.
Even though you're eating up on the inside.
Even though you're crying on the inside.
Yeah.
It's mastery of emotions, man. You have to control your emotions, or you will not be a profitable player.
I try to take that on the opposite end too, man. Like when I beat my opponents, bro, I try to look like I'm distraught for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows empathy. People like empathy. You say, I had two man, sorry, nice hand.
I'll never say sorry. That's the one. The word that I'll never. Because I feel like that's ultra tilting.
At low stakes, it can be both.
You never know how it's going to be perceived.
You never know how it's going to be perceived. And
where's the table here? I always go with this. Like regardless if I win, it's just is what it is.
You can't go wrong with a nice fist bump on the table.
Right.
It shows respect and.
Yeah.
If you're in a small room and you're battling with these people, eventually you will form some kind of warrior mutual respect with them. It's just how it is. Like that's how it happens when, like I said earlier, I don't think I extrapolated on this enough. Poker is a blood sport. Really, what poker is this intellectual cage match between 8 people, and your money also is a part of it. But for the most part, it's an intellectual cage match.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with GTO. It has nothing to do with big blinds. It's an intellectual cage match at the live game. If you want to play purist poker, if you really want to learn the theory, if you're saying, look, I want to play at a high level one day, you have to learn the theory. You have to learn GTO. You have to study high stakes regs deeply. You have to watch hours and hours of people battling it out on the poker table to get an idea of the kind of game you're dealing with. You have to look at everyone's, every single stat in the smart HUD. That is a completely different kind of game than a live game. So, I'm mainly a live player. I play online tournaments. I play online cash infrequently to just hone up on my poker
Earlier
skills.
I gave you my 95.5. What's your percentage?
Oh, recently, I say lifetime, it's been...
Yeah, give me the lifetime to start.
Like 80-20 live,
okay, cool.
live online.
Yep.
Recently, it's been like 80-20
the opposite.
online
the Club
live.
Dub is just so good.
Yeah, because Club Dub is just like a live game.
Right.
So I've been really enjoying that. I usually would not play
Ignition
online.
was like that for a long time. Did you ever play on Ignition?
I only played on Ignition to kind of... I only played 25 NL just to keep fresh.
Right.
And
but for me, the anonymity made it very live because you never know who's who.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever take use of their looking up the hands feature 24 hours later?
No. I know on some sites you can do it the next hand, actually. But
No. Where all the hole cards are exposed on Ignition after 24 hours.
Oh, I didn't know that, no. What?
How do people not know this, bro?
What the fuck? That's a thing?
How do people not know this?
What the fuck?
You save the hand history, and then the hand ID number. I'll open my Ignition right now and show you. You type in the number, and it will show you with every player's hole card exposed, so you can fold and still get the info the next day. And it's to prevent collusion on the anonymous site.
I've never seen that.
How did you not know? But the thing is, like,
I don't play on Ignition.
But no, here's the thing: is like you are not the only one. That's why I'm like, how? Like you being the poker me, like how do more people not know this? Where like that was like my main feature of studying was like I would just play, and then if I wanted, I would fold with impunity, because like I say, my style is to bet fold, and the caveat to that is, of course, you are then left wondering almost always.
Yeah.
Except not if you. You go into here, you go into account, you go into hand history, you type game trend, not game, you go hand history search, and then you just type in the number right here.
That's insane.
And that number will be displayed at the top right hand corner of every table after every hand.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we basically had 4, 5, 6 other questions, but maybe we'll have to save it for the next episode. We've already gone for about a couple hours-ish already.
Yeah, that's crazy. We've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, it's already 8:30.
That's wild.
Yep.
All right. Well.
But yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Any quick closing thoughts?
Quick closing thoughts is, look, there's a lot of free resources to get better at poker.
Like this one.
You do not have to pay money, and there is no replacement for live experience if you're going to play live. And there's no
personal experience, yeah.
Or
real money experience.
Real money experience. Unless real money is on the line, it's not the same. I don't know. It's something about the way our brains are wired.
Right. Even if it's like for honor, like no one cares about winning a certificate or a ribbon. Like you got to win the person's money.
Yep.
That's just what poker's built on. You have to take your opponent's money.
So being mentally pliable, being open and receptive, being a sponge at the poker table, picking up on which players are good or not, and taking on those traits and making yourself a better player. It's a never-ending learning experience. I consider myself a mid and low-stakes crusher. I learn more and more every day. Always keep learning. There's always something that you haven't seen, a spot you haven't seen, that could yield you a lot of better results down the road that you may encounter. So.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely don't pay for anything that until you're like a solid winning player. It's almost like you can learn everything for free until you're making once you cap out at $40 an hour. Then I think it's okay to start buying shit.
Yeah, you need to be at least winning, I'd say
maybe at least 20.
Yeah. If you're winning 10 big blinds an hour,
let's not go by big blinds just because it's so hard for people's games, you know, with it because it's you never know if it's a $2 big blind, a $3 big blind, a $1 big blind. Yeah. Let's just call it the hourly because at least people can factually make that happen for themselves.
20 to 40 is, you know, this is something that you should continue pursuing.
Right.
And this is over a large sample size, you know.
Yeah, at least for me, I mean, it's so weird too because like you really do feel like you can understand the grasp of people's capabilities. It's just you have to endure the variance. Like, I really do think that if you're a smart person, you should be able to tell where you are genuinely after about 100 hours. Now, if to see where your win rate goes, like, variance-wise, like, sure, you need, like, that 500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever hours. But, like, if you play 100 hours and you can't tell where the hell you are, that's telling in and of itself, I think. I'm not saying you should be able to say, this is my exact win rate, but you should be able to tell if, like, you've been winning or losing based on variance.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever you're sampling, whether it be hours or sessions, just if your sample size is over 30 and, you know, you are a losing player, that's okay. It's time to take a step back and say, look, I know there are leaks in my game. This is an opportunity to get better and plug my leaks. Am I giving off physical tells? Am I giving off timing tells? Am I giving off, am I betting sizing incorrectly? Every time you lose, unless it's just a stupid suck out, every time you lose is a chance to learn.
100%.
Take it as a chance to learn. That's your silver lining. You paid money for a lesson. Yep. So learn from it. Don't make the same mistake.
Cool. Well, we'll end up on that one, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for watching. And we won't waste any more. We'll see y'all on the next one.